What if, in just 3 hours, you could begin to master the emotions that so often control your life: anger, fear, anxiety, and doubt? Imagine no longer being at the mercy of sudden outbursts, emotional spirals, or that lingering tension that never seems to leave. It sounds ambitious, but the ancient Stoics believed it was not only possible, it was essential. Welcome to 3 Hours of Stoicism to master anger, fear, and emotion. For thousands of years, Stoicism has offered a practical guide for understanding our emotions, not to suppress them, but to transform them. Anger becomes clarity, fear becomes courage, emotion becomes strength. In this full-length journey, we'll dive deep into Stoic practices that help you stay composed in chaos, think before reacting, and build emotional resilience from the inside out. You don't need to be ruled by your feelings. You can lead them with wisdom, with calm, and with purpose. Let's begin. Imagine living in a state of complete serenity, where no harsh words, no adversity, not even the chaos around you could reach you. This is the central objective of Stoicism, transforming your mind into an impenetrable fortress. It's not about hiding from the world or avoiding problems, but rather facing them with courage and wisdom without being shaken. After all, the external world will never have power over you if your mind is fortified. How many times have you lost your peace over something small or allowed other people's actions to steal your happiness? The truth is that reacting impulsively only weakens us. When you choose not to be affected, you discover the true power that lies in controlling your emotions and actions. As the great Stoic philosophers taught, it's not what happens, but how you choose to interpret what happens that defines your experience. Being unshakable is an art you can learn, a muscle you can strengthen. The greatest battle you face is not in the external world, but within your own mind. We are our own greatest critics, often allowing uncontrolled thoughts and emotions to dominate us and steal our peace. Stoicism teaches us that the origin of suffering rarely lies in events themselves, but in the interpretations we give to them. As Epictetus said, it's not things that disturb us, but the judgments we make about them. With this perspective, we realize that by changing how we interpret the world, we can build an invisible shield against any adversity. Think of a recent situation where you were shaken. Perhaps it was criticism at work, a negative comment on social media, or an argument with someone close to you. What was your initial reaction? Probably a flood of thoughts arose. Why are they doing this to me? Or, I don't deserve this. This flow of thoughts isn't something we can avoid, but we can learn to recognize and control it before it consumes us. The construction of this invisible shield begins here, with the awareness that you are the guardian of your mind. This shield isn't something that emerges overnight. It's forged through daily practice of challenging automatic thoughts and asking yourself, does this really deserve my attention? For example, if someone insults you, you have two options. Absorb the words and allow yourself to be hurt, or realize that words only have power if you grant them importance. The insult is just empty noise unless you allow it to enter your mental fortress. The Stoics also teach us to separate what is under our control from what is not. Your reaction to an event is under your control. The event itself is not. When you accept this, you realize you can choose peace even in the midst of chaos. Imagine a shield that not only blocks external attacks, but reflects them back as if they never occurred. This shield is your ability to decide what enters your mind and what is rejected. Practice not identifying with your own thoughts and emotions. We often believe we are our thoughts, a mistake that can lead us to act impulsively. In truth, you are not the thoughts that arise, but the observer behind them. When you observe your thoughts with curiosity instead of judgment, you create space to choose how to respond. This is empowering and an essential part of Stoic training. To apply this lesson in practice, start today by reflecting on situations that would normally take away your peace. When a problem arises, ask yourself, is this under my control? Does this thought or emotion reflect reality or my interpretation of it? This constant self-analysis is what strengthens your invisible shield and makes it resistant to life's storms. In the end, you'll realize that the greatest enemy is not what happens, but what you believe about what happens. Responding with silence is one of the most underestimated yet powerful strategies you can adopt in your life. In today's society, we are constantly encouraged to react, whether through social media, where every opinion seems to demand an immediate response, or in our personal relationships, where the impulse to have the last word dominates our interactions. But what if you could choose not to react? What if instead you opted for silence as a form of strength rather than weakness? Stoicism teaches us that not reacting is a conscious act of self-control. Imagine someone insulting you in public. The natural reaction of many would be to insult back, shout, or justify themselves. However, by reacting, you hand over emotional control to the other person. When you choose silence, you show that it's you who dictates your actions, not someone else's provocation. It's a way of saying without words, I am not a puppet of your provocations. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us, you have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This strength lies in control. Silence is not just the absence of words, but a space where you can observe, process, and decide how or if it's worth responding. To silence, therefore, is to gain time to think, to observe your own emotions, and to avoid impulsive responses that are often guided by anger or frustration. Silence can disarm the other person. When someone expects a reaction, whether of anger or defense, and doesn't receive what they expected, it's like throwing cold water on fire. Silence breaks the cycle of aggression. It transforms a possible argument into a moment of reflection for both sides. Perhaps the other person, not getting a response, will realize that their behavior is inappropriate or purposeless. And if they don't realize it, it doesn't matter. You've maintained your peace. But mastering silence doesn't mean fleeing from necessary confrontations or avoiding responsibilities. There are moments when speaking is essential, when silence might be confused with omission or disinterest. However, even in these moments, silence before speech is important. It allows you to formulate a thoughtful response aligned with your values and objectives, instead of simply reacting to the emotion of the moment. In practice, mastering silence requires training. The next time you feel the urge to react immediately, whether to a rude comment, a provocation, or an irritating situation, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, will this response really contribute to something? Will it change the situation or just intensify the problem? In many cases, you'll realize that the best response is none at all. Remember also that silence is not just a tool in conflict situations, but also a way to connect with yourself. Quietude, whether external or internal, creates space for reflection and self-knowledge. By cultivating moments of silence in your life, You learn to listen to your own mind and distinguish between what is essential and what is noise. Not everything deserves your attention. This is a truth that many know, but few apply. We live in a world where we are constantly bombarded by stimuli: news, opinions, criticism, praise. But in Stoicism, wisdom lies in knowing what to let in and, more importantly, what to let pass. The ability to despise what doesn't matter is one of the most powerful tools for achieving inner peace. To despise is not about arrogance or superiority. It's not about rejecting people or situations, but rather protecting your mind from everything that is insignificant to your journey. Think of a stone in the middle of a river. It doesn't fight against the current, but also isn't dragged by it. In the same way, you must learn to observe what happens around you without emotionally involving yourself with everything. The Stoic is not insensitive but selective. He values his mental energy as a precious resource. How many times have you lost time trying to convince someone who wasn't interested in understanding your point of view, or found yourself consumed by criticism that, deep down, made no sense? Intelligent disdain is the antidote to these wares. It's not escape, it's strength. To ignore is not weakness, it's wisdom. When you consciously choose where to place your attention, you're affirming that only what really matters will have space in your life. Seneca, one of the great masters of Stoicism, wrote, "Nothing is more worthy of disdain than caring about others' disdain." This phrase teaches us that worrying about what others think or say is often a trap for our mind. When you allow yourself to be affected by others' opinions, you hand over your power to them. It's like carrying a suitcase full of stones that aren't yours. Letting go of this weight is liberating. Practicing the art of disdain requires 3 simple steps. First, ask yourself, will this have importance a year from now? If the answer is no, discard it. Second, identify what is truly significant to you. If a situation or comment doesn't contribute to your values or objectives, don't allow it to steal your peace. Third, practice emotional detachment. This doesn't mean you don't care, but that you don't allow the external to determine how you feel internally. By applying this lesson, you'll notice that your mind becomes lighter and your energy more focused. You begin to distinguish the essential from the superfluous, separating what deserves your attention from what should be ignored. After all, as Epictetus taught, we cannot control others' actions, only how we react to them. This clarity is the foundation for living with more freedom and serenity. What today seems unbearable tomorrow will be just a distant memory. This is one of the greatest truths of Stoicism, and also one of the most powerful tools for facing adversity. When you face a problem, it's easy to get lost in the intensity of the moment, to feel that pain, discomfort, or frustration are eternal. But the Stoic sees beyond the now. He understands that everything in life is passing, that today's storm doesn't define tomorrow, and that in the end, everything dissolves in time. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest emperors and Stoic philosophers, reminds us, if it's bearable, then bear it. This simple but profound phrase carries the essence of a resilient mentality. The Stoic doesn't deny suffering. He recognizes its existence, but also recognizes that suffering is finite. He understands that difficulties, no matter how intense they seem, have an expiration date. This perspective broadens the mental horizon and helps us realize that the now is just a small part of the whole. Think of a storm. When we're in the middle of it, the sensation is that it will never end. But inevitably, the storm passes, the sky clears, and calm returns. So too are life's difficulties. When you train your mind to look beyond the present, you realize you're closer to the solution than you imagine. This mentality not only brings emotional relief, but also clarity to make wiser decisions. A Stoic doesn't drown in his emotions. He navigates through them, knowing he'll soon find tranquil waters. A powerful practice for cultivating this unshakable horizon is to ask yourself, will this problem still have importance a year from now and 5 years from now? This simple reflection puts the present moment in perspective and reduces the emotional burden. What seemed to be an insurmountable crisis might actually be just a small obstacle. This ability to resize problems is one of the great strengths of Stoicism and a differential for those who wish to act as if nothing could affect them. Thinking beyond the now doesn't mean ignoring the present, but rather observing the present with an amplified vision. It's like looking at a map. While many get lost in the labyrinth of momentary emotions, the Stoic climbs to a hill and visualizes the entire route. This ability to emotionally distance oneself allows seeing with more clarity and making more rational decisions. To apply this lesson requires training. Moments of meditation and introspection are fundamental. For a few minutes each day, visualize a problem you're facing and project yourself into the future. Imagine how you in the future will look at this moment. Often, what seems so big today will be something small and even irrelevant with the passage of time. Finally, remember, the key to overcoming any challenge lies in how you interpret it. When you think beyond the now, you realize you possess much more strength and internal resources than you imagine. The Stoic knows that life is made of cycles and that even the greatest sorrows pass. Like the horizon, it's always ahead. Move forward with serenity and confidence. After all, what today seems an insurmountable obstacle tomorrow will be just another step in your growth journey. We all have expectations. We create scenarios in our minds about how things should happen, how people should act, and how the world should respond to our efforts. But it's precisely in this desire for control that much of human suffering resides. When we expect everything to go exactly as planned, we become hostages to a world that never was nor will be entirely predictable. In Stoicism, the focus is on what we can control: our thoughts, our actions, our decisions. Everything beyond this is considered external, something that shouldn't consume our energy or determine our inner peace. Think of how many times you've been disappointed because something didn't go as you wanted. Maybe it was a promotion at work that didn't come, a person who didn't correspond to what you expected, or even a plan that went wrong. The problem wasn't the event itself, but the weight you gave to it. This happens because by creating rigid expectations, you place your well-being in the hands of something you cannot control. The Stoic, however, learns to accept what happens as an inevitable part of life while directing his attention to what is within his reach. Free yourself from the habit of trying to control others. Each person has their own journey, and you cannot force anyone to act according to your expectations. This applies to work colleagues, partners, friends, and even family members. Frustration arises when we want others to be different from what they are. But as Marcus Aurelius said, begin each day remembering that you will encounter ungrateful, dishonest, envious, and rude people. This cannot surprise you. Accepting this reality is not pessimism, but wisdom. When you stop demanding that the world and people be as you would like, you open space for true peace. A powerful practice for overcoming the weight of expectation is to ask yourself, does this depend on me? If the answer is yes, do your best. If the answer is no, let it go. For example, you can control the effort you put into your work, but not your boss's reaction. You can be kind to people, but not control whether they reciprocate. This simple distinction is what separates anxiety from freedom. When you free yourself from the need for control, you discover something incredible. Things that once seemed enormous become small, and your energy redirects to what really matters. You realize that expectations are like invisible chains that bind you to suffering. Releasing these chains is a choice. Choose to invest your energy in what you can change, yourself. True control was never in the external world. It was always in how you choose to react, interpret, and live the experiences that come to you. Peace is not found in a perfect world, but in a mind that accepts imperfection with wisdom. In Stoicism, discomfort is not seen as something to be avoided, but as an opportunity for growth. Learning to face discomfort instead of fleeing from it is one of the most powerful lessons you can take into your life. The deliberate practice of exposing yourself to what is uncomfortable, both physically and emotionally, strengthens your mind, making it more resilient and prepared to face any adversity. The Stoic knows that discomfort is temporary, but the strength acquired by overcoming it is permanent. Imagine a cold morning where getting out of bed seems to be the most difficult task of the day. The Stoic doesn't hesitate. He sees in the cold shower water or the walk in challenging weather a chance to challenge the mind's limits. By facing physical discomfort, he develops discipline and mastery over himself. This practice may seem simple, but it brings a profound lesson. The mind is much stronger than we believe. When you get used to small doses of discomfort, you create a type of mental immunity against life's great challenges. This philosophy also applies to emotional discomforts. Conflicts and losses are inevitable, but they don't need to be paralyzing. Seneca said we should prepare for the worst, not as pessimists, but as strategists. Face life's difficulties as training for the spirit. Just as an athlete strengthens his muscles by resisting greater weights, you strengthen your soul by facing challenging emotions. Instead of dodging, ask yourself, what can this experience teach me? This change in mentality transforms every obstacle into a step toward personal growth. Exposing yourself to discomfort in a planned way is a manner of becoming more resistant to external pressures. Practices like intermittent fasting, challenging physical exercises, or even avoiding certain material comforts teach that luxury doesn't define your happiness. By choosing to give up something for a while, you discover you need less than you imagine. This perception reduces dependence on external factors and increases your emotional self-sufficiency. Learning to find peace in discomfort is liberating. When you understand that life doesn't need to be comfortable all the time, you stop fearing the unpredictable. Imagine the impact of this in your daily life. A colleague's criticism wouldn't be able to shake your confidence. A difficult day at work wouldn't be enough to destroy your spirits. This inner strength translates into tranquility in the face of adversities. The practice of discomfort also rescues the power of the present moment. By facing uncomfortable situations, your mind focuses completely on the now, disconnecting from future anxieties or past regrets. This is one of discomfort's greatest gifts. It teaches us to live more consciously and connectedly. Adopt the cold as your ally. Don't avoid discomfort. Seek it strategically. Face physical challenges, accept emotional difficulties, and give up certain comforts by your own choice. By doing this, you will not only find peace in the midst of chaos, but become the very personification of Stoic resilience. Discomfort is not your enemy, it's your teacher. Not everything that happens around you is a direct reflection of who you are. Much of the suffering we carry arises from our tendency to personalize events and others' actions as if everything were intentionally directed at us. This habit of interpreting happenings under the filter of me makes us vulnerable, trapped in an emotional snare. Stoicism teaches us that developing indifference is an act of emotional intelligence and a demonstration of inner strength. Imagine a common scenario. Someone makes a rude comment or acts hostilely toward you. Naturally, your reaction might be anger or hurt, believing this attitude was a personal attack. However, consider for a moment that people often act motivated by their own internal struggles, stress, or ignorance, and not by something related to you. As Seneca said, we are often more affected by our imagination than by reality. That is, the impact of an action is directly linked to how you choose to interpret it. When you understand that not everything revolves around you, you discover a freedom that few achieve. But what is indifference in Stoicism? It's not apathy, much less lack of empathy. Indifference means not reacting exaggeratedly to external stimuli that have no relevance to your peace or purpose. It's a conscious decision not to be carried away by the heat of the moment. It's a state of clarity that separates what matters from what is superfluous, keeping focus on what really makes a difference. When you realize you have the power to choose how to react or even not to react, you gain control over yourself. A practical example of Stoic indifference can be observed on social media. How many times have you seen someone being criticized or attacked virtually? If the attacked person chooses not to react, often the situation dissolves by itself. This happens because reaction feeds conflict, while indifference empties it. By ignoring the attack, the person maintains dignity and preserves their inner peace. However, reacting impulsively can lead to an endless cycle of aggressions and hurts. Now, how to cultivate this practical indifference? First, recognize that others' opinions and actions don't define your value. Others' approval is not necessary for your happiness. Remember, what others think or do is a reflection of them, not of you. Second, practice the pause. When something bothers you, don't react immediately. Take a deep breath, analyze the situation calmly, and ask yourself, does this really matter for my life? Finally, train your focus. Direct your energy only to what is under your control. Everything else should be treated as noise. Indifference is not about ignoring people or situations around you, but about protecting your mind from being captured by unnecessary chaos. The more you practice, the more you realize that most things that irritated, worried, or hurt you simply didn't deserve your attention. Adopting this practice in your life is like installing an emotional filter. Only what is valuable, constructive, and meaningful passes through it. Everything else is discarded. When you master the value of indifference, you discover a peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Be an observer, not a sponge that absorbs everything around you. The world will continue acting chaotically, but you can choose not to participate in this tumult. Indifference is the key to walking through life with serenity, without wearing yourself out with what, in the end, doesn't matter. Comparison is one of the greatest enemies of inner peace. It places us in an infinite race, trying to reach standards that aren't always ours or even real. In Stoicism, the idea of living according to your own nature is fundamental. Each person has a unique path with challenges, talents, and opportunities that cannot be measured by another's ruler. However, in a world where we are constantly exposed to others' seemingly perfect achievements, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparing our backstage with others' illuminated stage. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste what you have by wishing for what you don't have." This teaching reminds us that comparison robs us of the present. When you look at another person's success or happiness and feel you're falling behind, you're ignoring the blessings and advances you've already conquered. The neighbor's grass may seem greener, but we rarely consider the work he did to keep it that way, or even if that grass is real. After all, external brightness often hides invisible struggles. Comparison disconnects us from our essence. Every time you measure yourself by someone else's success, you're abandoning your own trajectory. The Stoic understands that the only valid comparison is with who you were yesterday. If you're striving to be a little better each day, you're already winning. Think about it. What do you gain by comparing your journey with another person's? Do you feel motivated or demotivated? Most of the time, the result is anxiety, frustration, and a sense of inadequacy. These feelings serve no Stoic purpose because they only take focus away from what really matters: internal progress. Imagine an athlete running on a track. If he constantly looks at other runners, he loses focus and rhythm. He cannot control their performance, but he can control his own. This is how we should live. When you look only at your path, you begin to value each small conquest and understand that your progress is made in your own time. Some reach their peak early, others later, and this doesn't matter. What's important is to keep moving forward. Comparison frequently bases itself on illusions. On social media, for example, people show only happy moments, victories, and achievements. This creates the false impression that their lives are perfect. But nobody posts defeats, bad days, or inevitable failures. Comparing yourself to something so distorted is unfair to yourself. You're not competing with reality, you're competing with a fantasy. To combat this poison, practice gratitude for what you already have. Whenever you feel envy or frustration when seeing another person's life, pause and reflect on the good things you've already conquered. Reinforce your internal focus by asking yourself, how can I grow from where I am now? Stoicism doesn't teach ignoring evolution, but concentrating on personal evolution without being distracted by others' progress. Remember that your journey is yours. There's no competition because there are no two identical lives. When you understand this, you find freedom. The path to being unshakable lies not in avoiding all of life's difficulties, but in developing the mental tools to face them with serenity and wisdom. These ancient teachings remain as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago, because they address the fundamental nature of human experience. The external world will always present challenges, unexpected events, and people who may not align with our expectations. But what we can control, our thoughts, reactions, and choices, remains constant across all times and circumstances. Building this inner fortress requires daily practice and patience with yourself. It's not about becoming emotionless or disconnected from the world around you. Rather, it's about developing the discernment to know when to engage and when to step back, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to care deeply and when to maintain healthy indifference. The journey toward becoming unshakable is itself a practice in Stoic principles. There will be days when you forget these lessons, when old patterns of reaction resurface, when you find yourself caught up in the very dramas you intended to avoid. This is not failure. It's part of the human experience. The Stoic approach is to observe these moments without harsh self-judgment, learn from them, and return to the practice with renewed commitment. In our modern world, where information flows constantly and opinions come from every direction, the ability to maintain inner equilibrium has become more valuable than ever. The Stoic practices outlined here offer a refuge not from the world, but within it. They provide a foundation of stability that allows you to engage fully with life while maintaining your center. True strength lies not in never being challenged, but in how you respond when challenges arise. It's not about avoiding all discomfort, but finding meaning and growth within it. It's not about controlling everything around you, but mastering your responses to what you cannot control. This is the essence of the unshakable life, not a life without storms, but the ability to remain steady while they rage around you. As you continue on this path, remember that every moment offers a new opportunity to practice these principles. Each interaction, each unexpected event, each internal reaction becomes a chance to strengthen your inner fortress. The goal is not perfection but progress, not the elimination of all difficulties but the development of wisdom in facing them. The ancient Stoics faced wars, political upheaval, personal losses, and all the uncertainties that life could bring. Yet, they found a way to maintain their philosophical center, to act with virtue regardless of circumstances, and to find peace within themselves even when the world around them was chaotic. Their example shows us that this way of living is not only possible, but practical and deeply fulfilling. Your mind, properly trained and fortified with these principles, becomes your greatest ally in navigating life's complexities. It transforms from a source of anxiety and reactivity into a wellspring of calm, strength, and clear thinking. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but with consistent practice, you'll find yourself naturally embodying these Stoic ideals in your daily life. The ultimate measure of success in this practice is not whether you never face difficulties, but whether you can face them with grace, wisdom, and inner peace. When you reach this state, you discover that being unshakable doesn't mean being unmoved by life, but being moved by the right things for the right reasons, always from a place of choice rather than compulsion. Imagine yourself surrounded by toxic people, absorbing your energy and undermining your peace. It's a frustrating truth, but what if I told you there's a way to transform that scenario? The ancient Stoic philosophers offer us powerful strategies to face toxic people while maintaining our inner tranquility. You'll learn to stay calm in the midst of chaos, to respond with wisdom and intelligence instead of anger and fury. You'll discover how to convert confrontations into opportunities for growth and how to establish healthy boundaries without feeling guilty. This journey of self-discovery and empowerment begins with understanding that we cannot control others, but we have complete dominion over our responses. The human mind can be compared to a garden where our serenity is the most precious flower. Just as a gardener cares for his plants, we need to care for our thoughts and emotions, protecting them from negative influences. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that you have control over your mind, not over what happens outside of it. By understanding this, we find strength. Within this mental garden, there are people who can act like weeds, harming our growth and peace. It's important to know how to identify them. Pay attention to those who, with words or attitudes, diminish your self-esteem or disturb your calm. These are the signs that a weed is establishing itself in your mind. There exist different types of negative people. Some, like vines, always seek attention and validation for their actions, suffocating everything around them. Others are like thorns, spreading rumors and creating conflicts that hurt those who come near. There are also those who, like parasites, drain your energy, leaving you tired after each conversation. Seneca taught that the objective of life is to live according to nature. This means recognizing those negative influences and acting according to our reason and virtue. For example, establish boundaries. If someone criticizes your decisions, you can respond calmly. I appreciate your opinion, but I'm comfortable with my decision. Seneca advises that we associate with people who make us better. Besides protecting our mind from negative influences, we must seek those who help us grow and feel good. Cultivate relationships that inspire virtue, wisdom, and serenity. The process of pruning toxic influences requires the same precision and care that a master gardener uses. Just as you wouldn't hesitate to remove a diseased branch that threatens the health of an entire tree, you must be willing to distance yourself from relationships that poison your emotional well-being. This doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent, but rather developing the wisdom to distinguish between constructive criticism and destructive negativity, between genuine concern and manipulative control. Consider the metaphor of Marcus Aurelius, the famous Stoic emperor of Rome. To govern a vast empire, power, knowledge, and determination were necessary. In the same way, when strengthening the walls of your interior, that is, your emotional well-being, those same attributes are essential. The boundaries you establish are the foundation of that wall, especially when dealing with toxic people. Boundaries are rules you establish to make clear what you accept or don't accept in your life. It's crucial not to allow negative people to affect your emotional balance. Just as a strong leader wouldn't let his frontiers be invaded, you must protect your mental territory. Begin by identifying what drains your energy or harms who you are. It might be a friend's constant pessimism, a colleague's manipulative behavior, or a family member's intrusive advice. After identifying those boundaries, communicate them clearly and directly. Be inspired by Marcus Aurelius. Be firm but fair. To facilitate communication, think about how you feel and use I phrases instead of accusations. For example, instead of saying, "You're always so negative," try, "I feel drained when you focus only on the negative." Be specific. Instead of saying, "I need space," say, "I can't talk now, but we can converse at the end of the week." Keep your word, but be kind. There's a difference between being assertive and being aggressive. It's important to express your point of view with confidence without hostility. Establishing boundaries is not a one-time action. Just as a Stoic ruler who always protects his territory from invasions needs to be firm and consistent, if someone doesn't respect your boundaries, remind them calmly. It may be necessary to reduce contact with that person or even distance yourself completely. Remember that establishing boundaries is not punishing someone, but protecting yourself. The envy that often feeds toxic conversations was avoided by the Stoics. By defining your boundaries, you're not being selfish, but protecting your emotional well-being and creating the necessary space to achieve inner peace. When dealing with manipulative people, the repetition technique is an effective strategy for maintaining firmness in the face of manipulations and emotional pressures. Imagine being in a situation where someone tries to weaken your boundaries using deceptive arguments and emotional manipulations. In those moments, maintaining control and clarity is fundamental. Stoic philosophy teaches the importance of perseverance and reason to protect our inner peace. This technique consists of repeating calmly and constantly a single clear position without allowing the other person to divert your attention. By constantly reaffirming your stance, you prevent emotional manipulations from taking you away from focus. Epictetus emphasizes that true freedom is the ability to say no without needing justifications. Defining and maintaining your boundaries is an act of autonomy and wisdom. The constant repetition of your stance is an effective tool for dealing with manipulators who use praise, guilt, or anger to try to control your actions. By repeating your position calmly and assertively, you reduce the emotional influence of the situation, keeping reason in command. This approach blocks the manipulator, frustrating their attempts to divert the conversation, as their tactics are neutralized with repetition. Visualize this as a rock resisting the waves. The emotions, represented by the waves, try to wear down the rock, but reason and firmness, like the rock, remain unshakable. This technique is not about confrontation, but about preserving your serenity and maintaining your stance in the face of attempts at emotional control. A practical example would be a situation where someone tries to convince you to do something that goes against your values or principles. This person might try to use social pressure, praise, or guilt to influence. Using the repetition technique, you would respond calmly and repeatedly. I understand your opinion, but my decision is this. With each new attempt at persuasion, you would return to the same response without being carried away by the manipulator's emotions. This way, with patience and constancy, you maintain control over your actions and thoughts, preserving your inner peace and respecting your own boundaries, as Stoic principles teach. The art of not falling for provocations is fundamental in this practice. Don't let yourself be carried away by the provocations of toxic people. They often use insults or emotional manipulations to get a reaction from you, thus feeding their own drama. Stoic philosophy teaches a good defense, indifference. This doesn't mean not caring, but being emotionally distant from what affects you negatively. The Stoics, like Epictetus, differentiated between apathy and indifference. Apathy is the lack of concern, while indifference is the ability to disconnect from unpleasant feelings that distort our reasoning. This difference is crucial when dealing with toxic people to avoid falling into the emotional trap. To avoid falling into the emotional trap, follow these steps. First, recognize the strategy. Stay alert to signs that someone is trying to provoke you. It might be a disguised criticism or emotional manipulation. Once you identify the strategy, it loses part of its power. Second, disconnect from the reaction. The objective of provocation is to generate anger, irritation, or defensiveness. Practice Stoic indifference and don't allow yourself to be caught emotionally. Third, maintain calm. By not reacting, you dissolve the drama. Without your response, provocations lose strength and eventually run out of power. Being Stoic doesn't mean becoming insensitive. The philosophy values positive emotions, but teaches us to detach from negative ones we cannot control. Thus, you become a serene observer, distancing yourself from others' drama and maintaining your inner peace, immune to the storms others try to create. Choosing silence is a powerful strategy against toxic people who seek to drag us into emotional conflicts. Conscious silence can be an effective weapon against verbal attacks. The expected dynamic by the aggressor, although it's natural to want to respond or defend yourself, true self-control manifests in the ability to remain silent. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, reminds us that toxic people follow predictable patterns, expecting reactions of anger or defensiveness. By not reacting, we break that negative cycle. Silence denies the aggressor the emotional reaction they seek. Imagine someone shouting in an empty space without receiving a response. The silence that follows is not just the absence of sound, but a signal of inner strength and of not being carried away by others' emotions or reactions. Marcus Aurelius advises, "Stop arguing about what a good man is. Be one." Silence demonstrates calm, rationality, and imperturbability in the face of external provocations. Initially, the aggressor may intensify their attacks, seeking to force a reaction. Stay firm. This silence is not weakness, but a powerful tool of the truly strong. Although not applicable in all situations, choosing silence is a valuable Stoic tool. It disarms toxic people, protects your inner peace, and demonstrates emotional control. By choosing silence, you send a clear message. I will not participate in this negative mental game. For example, imagine that someone always makes negative comments about what you do. Instead of getting angry or trying to defend yourself, you decide to stay quiet and focus on improving your work. Over time, your silence and the progress you achieve speak louder than any words, making the criticisms lose strength and showing your true inner fortitude. The practice of not allowing yourself to be influenced by toxic people requires conscious effort and consistent application of Stoic principles. Stoicism teaches us to concentrate our attention on what we can control. Although we cannot change other people's actions, we can choose how to manage our interactions with them. This doesn't mean isolating ourselves, but managing our interactions more consciously and in a balanced way. Epictetus reminds us that true happiness and freedom come from understanding. When dealing with negative people, it's important to observe their behavior neutrally, without getting emotionally involved. This emotional distancing is essential for maintaining our inner tranquility. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of protecting our inner peace by limiting exposure to negative influences. This is not weakness, but a way to create space to focus on what really matters in our lives. By establishing clear boundaries, especially in challenging professional or personal relationships, we can maintain a healthy balance. For example, if a coworker is always involved in gossip or complaints, we can reduce our interactions with that person to the essential, maintaining a respectful tone, but without allowing ourselves to be influenced. This helps us concentrate our energy on productive activities and relationships that add value to our environment. The importance of building a support system cannot be overstated in this journey. The Stoic philosophers like Seneca said it's important to live in harmony with nature, which includes being close to good people who share values similar to ours. These people can be valuable support in difficult moments, offering wise advice and reminding you of your worth. A good support system protects you from negative influences and creates a safe space to share your experiences and frustrations. It helps strengthen your self-esteem and determination, balancing the negative effects of toxic relationships. The Stoics believed it's essential to surround ourselves with people who have the qualities we want to develop. This circle of virtuous friends serves as a positive example, inspiring strength and optimism in challenging situations. Building and maintaining a support system requires continuous effort. This involves caring for the relationships you already have and seeking new connections with people who share your values. You can achieve this by cultivating meaningful friendships, participating in groups or communities that interest you, and showing gratitude to those who offer support. A suggestion would be joining a book club that explores Stoic philosophy, where you can debate ideas, share experiences, and support each other mutually. Another possibility is befriending people who exemplify Stoic virtues like courage and wisdom, learning from them through observation and dialogue. This supportive environment becomes crucial when facing the inevitable challenges that toxic people present. Self-care emerges as a non-negotiable necessity in this context. Dealing with toxic people is like being in constant battle, which can drain your emotions and leave you tired. To avoid this, it's fundamental to include self-care in your daily routine. This can be as simple as reserving time to relax, exercise, meditate, or even do an activity you enjoy, like reading or listening to music. These small actions are valuable investments in your mental health and help maintain your daily well-being. Here are some ways to practice self-care. First, activities that bring joy. Identify what you like to do to relax. Physical activities like running or yoga, or artistic ones like painting or writing, help relieve stress and recharge your energies. Second, meditation. Meditation practices help calm the mind and disconnect from negative thoughts. Making meditation a regular part of your self-care is an excellent way to manage stress. Third, connection with nature. Spending time outdoors, like walking in a park or hiking, is beneficial for mental health. This can improve your mood and give you a new perspective for dealing with toxic people. Fourth, listen to your body. Pay attention to signs of exhaustion or stress. Don't wait to feel completely exhausted to take care of yourself. Incorporate healthy habits like sleeping well and taking breaks throughout the day. Fifth, establish boundaries. Define boundaries to protect your self-care time. Learn to refuse requests that might interfere with that time. Remember that prioritizing your well-being is not selfishness. It's fundamental for your emotional resilience. By integrating personal care into your life, you become stronger and more balanced. A Stoic warrior is always prepared to face challenges, and by taking care of yourself, you'll also be more prepared to deal with the negativity around you. The practice of not absorbing others' toxicity requires developing a particular type of mental resilience. Imagine yourself as a firm rock in the middle of an agitated ocean. The waves represent toxic people who try to destabilize your inner peace with their complaints and insecurities. Stoic philosophy helps us face these situations. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we have control over our mind, not over what happens around us. Understanding this gives us strength in the face of negativity. When you encounter difficult people, try to stay as an observer. Just as a lighthouse that shines in the storm, keep your inner light lit regardless of the darkness around you. Their negativity reflects their own problems, not yours. For example, if a colleague criticizes your work, instead of getting upset, think about what you can control. What they say is out of your control, but how you react is totally in your hands. Epictetus said that it's not things that make us uncomfortable, but what we think about them. By seeing each difficult interaction as an opportunity to grow, you strengthen your character. Consider these people as involuntary teachers. Each challenge they bring is an opportunity to improve your resilience. Seneca reminds us that whoever doesn't know where to go doesn't take advantage of the wind in their favor. Focus on your own growth and use these experiences to become a better version of yourself. Remember that detachment is not indifference. Stoicism teaches us to recognize others' suffering, but to respond with balance. We can understand the pain behind toxic behavior without being carried away by emotional confusion. Keep in mind that just as the sea calms after the storm, toxic people are transitory. Our task is to preserve our inner peace regardless of circumstances. By doing so, we not only maintain our tranquility, but also become an example of stability for others, even for those who try to disturb us. The true victory over toxicity is not in changing others, but in improving ourselves. As Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not being like your enemy." By cultivating virtue and wisdom, we overcome the waves of negativity, emerging not only unharmed, but strengthened. Learning to let people follow their own path represents one of the most profound lessons in Stoic wisdom. On life's journey, we inevitably encounter people whose attitudes and behaviors seem to challenge our inner peace. The impulse to try to correct or help these people can be strong, especially if they're close to us. However, Stoic wisdom teaches us a valuable lesson. Our power of transformation is limited to ourselves. As Epictetus wisely observed, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the vision they have of things." This perspective reminds us that someone's negativity is ultimately a matter of internal perception. Just as we cannot force a seed to sprout before its time, we cannot impose change on another person. The Stoics encourage us to direct our energy toward the only domain over which we have true control, our own choices and actions. Seneca reminds us, "No one can hurt you without your consent." This doesn't mean we should be indifferent to others' suffering, but that we have the power to decide how others' actions affect us. We can offer support and guidance when asked, but we must resist the temptation to assume responsibility for another person's life when they don't want to change. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, taught that life's objective is to live according to nature. Part of this harmony is accepting that not everyone will follow the path of virtue at the same pace or in the same way as us. Our role is not to judge or correct, but to live according to our principles. If, after careful reflection, we conclude that certain person's presence in our life is truly harmful, Stoic philosophy teaches us to distance ourselves from those people. This is not an act of abandonment, but of self-discipline and self-love. As Epictetus advised, if someone is capable of convincing you and showing you that you don't think or act correctly, change willingly. But if you're not convinced, have patience with that person and follow your own path. Remember, cultivate virtue within yourself, offer kindness to others, and trust that each person will discover their own path to wisdom at the right time. Don't try to change someone who isn't willing to change. The art of detachment becomes particularly relevant when we face relationships that have become sources of constant conflict and stress. In life's journey, our inner balance is like a delicate garden that requires constant care. Sometimes we find people whose actions or words threaten to disturb the harmony we cultivate with such care. Stoicism teaches us that in certain situations, the most virtuous act is knowing when to distance ourselves. This wisdom resonates deeply when we face relationships that drain our vital energy. Consider a long-standing friendship that has become a constant source of conflict and stress. Despite your attempts to communicate and establish boundaries, you realize the negativity persists. Stoicism doesn't teach us to flee from challenges, but to discern between what we can change and what we must accept. When thinking about distancing yourself, ask yourself, Have you analyzed your own perceptions? Is the situation really bad or just challenging? The answers to these questions will help you make a decision. The detachment process doesn't have to be abrupt or dramatic. It can be gradual, like the tide that slowly withdraws from the shore. Reduce shared time, limit interactions to essentials, and redirect your energy toward relationships that nourish your personal growth. Remember, the objective is not to isolate yourself, but to create space for relationships that resonate with your values and contribute to your inner peace. As Seneca astutely observed, associate with people who make you better. By practicing wise detachment, you not only protect your well-being, but also exemplify Stoic principles of living with intention and virtue. This practice opens the way to a more serene and authentic existence, allowing you to flourish in a garden of tranquility cultivated by your own hands. The journey toward forgiveness, particularly self-forgiveness, represents perhaps the most challenging yet liberating aspect of dealing with toxic people. Imagine that you're a sailor about to embark on a long journey through life's seas. However, your boat is heavy with anchors of resentment and pain, making navigation difficult. Stoicism teaches us that forgiving is like cutting those emotional anchors. It's not about helping whoever hurt you, but about freeing yourself. The Stoics teach that we must accept what we cannot control, like others' actions. Carrying grudges is like trying to row against the current, exhausting and senseless. Stoic lessons function as a guide to achieve self-forgiveness and inner peace. The Stoics defended that true power resides in the mastery of our thoughts and reactions, not in external circumstances. To find peace, it's necessary to forgive yourself and release the bonds of resentment. Forgiving doesn't mean approving the actions of those who hurt you, but recognizing that the past is immutable and that your response to it is under your control. As Seneca advised, the best cure for anger is postponement. By practicing this emotional distancing, you'll discover your own inner strength. Break the chains of negativity. Resentment is a self-imposed prison. By clinging to it, you allow those who hurt you to continue exercising power over your life, even in their absence. Self-forgiveness is the key that opens the doors of that emotional prison. The forgiveness process is a journey, not a destination. Here are some strategies for navigating these turbulent waters. First, recognize the emotional storm. Accept the existence of your anger, pain, or resentment. Denying these emotions is like ignoring a storm on the horizon, dangerous and imprudent. Second, cultivate compassion for yourself. Treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a traveling companion in difficulties. Remember, you're not only a victim of others' actions, but also of the circumstances that shaped those actions. Third, observe with the impartiality of a lighthouse. Try to understand if the actions that hurt you were motivated by malice or by other forces outside the offender's control. Changing your perspective can illuminate the path toward empathy and facilitate forgiveness. By releasing the weight of negativity, you open space in your boat for more valuable provisions, emotional healing, and a fuller life. Consider the practical example of a person who was betrayed by a close friend. Initially, the pain and anger may seem overwhelming. However, by applying Stoic principles, that person can begin to see the situation from a new perspective. Perhaps the friend was struggling with their own insecurities or external pressures. Although this doesn't justify the betrayal, understanding the context can help dissolve resentment. Over time, the person can reach a place of acceptance, recognizing they cannot change the past, but can choose how that experience shapes their future. You have the power to transform yourself from a castaway adrift in the sea of bitterness to a skilled navigator guiding your boat toward calmer waters. Remember, a journey without resentments is a journey worth taking. Raise your sails, release the anchors of the past, and move forward toward a future of inner peace and personal fulfillment. Give yourself this gift. Accept forgiveness. The culmination of this Stoic approach to dealing with toxic people lies in the profound understanding that our responses to others' behavior define our character more than their actions define theirs. When we master these principles, establishing boundaries, practicing detachment, choosing our battles wisely, and cultivating inner peace, we discover that toxic people lose their power to disturb our equilibrium. They become merely external circumstances that we observe with the calm wisdom of a Stoic sage. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, nor does it require us to become cold or unfeeling. Rather, it asks us to develop the discernment to distinguish between what deserves our energy and what should be allowed to pass by, like clouds in the sky. The Stoic understands that engaging with every provocation, responding to every slight, or attempting to correct every wrong only serves to diminish our own peace and effectiveness. In this practice, we learn that true strength lies not in our ability to control others, but in our mastery of ourselves. We discover that the most profound victory over toxic behavior is not in changing the other person, but in becoming so grounded in our own principles that their negativity cannot shake our foundation. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom, finding unshakable peace within ourselves, regardless of the chaos that others might bring to our lives. The journey continues beyond these strategies, extending into every interaction and every moment of choice we encounter. Each day presents new opportunities to practice these principles, to strengthen our inner fortress, and to exemplify the Stoic ideals of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. In doing so, we not only protect ourselves from toxic influences, but become beacons of stability and virtue for others who may be struggling with similar challenges. Remember that this path requires patience, both with yourself and with the process. There will be moments when you falter, when old patterns of reaction resurface, when the weight of others' negativity feels too heavy to bear. In these moments, return to the fundamental Stoic truth. You have control over your mind, your choices, and your responses. Everything else, including the behavior of toxic people, lies outside your domain, and therefore outside your responsibility. The freedom that comes from truly understanding and applying these principles is profound. It's the freedom to engage with life fully while remaining centered in your own values. It's the ability to offer compassion without becoming a victim, to set boundaries without guilt, and to walk away from situations that no longer serve your highest good. This is the gift that Stoic philosophy offers, not an escape from life's challenges, but the tools to meet them with grace, wisdom, and unshakable inner peace. It's a harsh reality, but some people in our lives take pleasure in causing harm and chaos. Think about it. You could be sharing moments, trusting someone, only to discover they are the very source of your turmoil. This exploration delves deep into a topic that's as fascinating as it is frightening, recognizing the signs you're dealing with an evil person. Whether it's a colleague, a friend, or even a family member, these individuals can be masters of deception, hiding their true nature behind charm and charisma. Understanding these signs can be life-changing. The Stoics believed in the power of perception and the importance of living a life guided by reason and virtue. By identifying and understanding these toxic traits, we can protect our peace of mind and cultivate healthier relationships, staying true to the Stoic principles of wisdom and self-control. This journey of self-awareness and resilience will equip you not only to spot these behaviors, but also to learn practical ways to safeguard your mental health and well-being. When we talk about people who seem charming and charismatic at first, it's important to remember that appearances can be deceiving. These individuals often have a way of lighting up a room, making everyone around them feel special and valued. They know exactly what to say to make you feel like you've just made a new best friend. At first glance, they seem like the perfect person, witty, engaging, and seemingly interested in your life. It's easy to get swept up in their charm, thinking you've found someone truly special. However, the Stoics teach us to look beyond the surface and seek the truth through rational thought and observation. Over time, you might start to notice little cracks in their facade. Maybe they always need to be the center of attention, overshadowing others in social settings. They might talk over you, interrupt you, or even subtly put you down in front of others. These aren't just quirks or signs of an extroverted personality. They're red flags. The Stoics would advise us to observe these behaviors with a clear mind, unclouded by the initial excitement of their charisma. Imagine being at a party where this person is the life of the event, telling jokes and captivating the crowd. At first, it feels great to be in their orbit, but as the evening progresses, you realize they're dominating every conversation, making everything about themselves. When you try to share something about your life, they quickly redirect the topic back to them. This is where the Stoic principle of apatheia, a state of being undisturbed by external things, comes in handy. By staying emotionally balanced, you can see through their charming act and recognize the self-centered nature underneath. It's also crucial to pay attention to how they react when things don't go their way. A person who is genuinely kind and caring will handle disappointments and disagreements with grace and understanding. But someone who is merely playing a role to gain your trust might quickly become angry or defensive. They might lash out or try to manipulate the situation to regain control. According to Stoic wisdom, such reactions are clear indicators of a lack of virtuous character. Marcus Aurelius reminds us to be wary of those who display signs of anger and manipulation, as these are not the traits of a rational and virtuous person. The key here is to take your time and trust your instincts. The Stoics believed in the power of observation and the importance of not rushing to judgment based on first impressions. Epictetus taught that we should carefully evaluate the character of those we allow into our inner circle. So if someone seems too good to be true, give yourself the space to observe their actions over time. Notice how they treat others, especially when they think no one is watching. True character is revealed in how a person behaves when they aren't trying to impress anyone. Remember, not everyone who seems charming and charismatic has good intentions. Some people use their charm as a tool for manipulation. By staying grounded and mindful, you can protect yourself from being taken in by a superficial facade. Stay true to the Stoic principles of wisdom and discernment, and you'll be better equipped to navigate these complex social interactions. Another crucial sign to watch out for is a lack of empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It's what allows us to connect deeply with those around us, to offer support when it's needed, and to create meaningful relationships. However, there are individuals out there who seem to completely lack this essential human trait. They don't care about how their actions or words affect others, and this can have a devastating impact on those around them. The Stoics believed in the importance of compassion and understanding as fundamental virtues. Marcus Aurelius often spoke about the interconnectedness of humanity and the need to consider the well-being of others as part of our own well-being. So, when we encounter someone who shows a blatant disregard for the feelings of others, it's a serious red flag. Imagine you're sharing something deeply personal with a friend, hoping for some comfort or understanding. Instead of showing any genuine concern, they brush off your feelings or even mock your vulnerability. This lack of empathy can make you feel isolated and misunderstood. It's not just about them not being there for you in tough times. It's also about them failing to share in your joy or celebrate your successes. A person who lacks empathy won't cheer for your achievements. They might even undermine them or take credit themselves. This behavior is not just limited to personal relationships. Consider a boss who pushes their employees to the brink, showing no concern for their well-being. They might demand long hours without fair compensation, ignore requests for time off, or publicly criticize employees in a way that's meant to humiliate rather than constructively guide. This creates a toxic work environment where people feel undervalued and stressed. The Stoics would advise us to maintain our inner peace and integrity in such situations, recognizing that the lack of empathy in others is a reflection of their character, not ours. Furthermore, a lack of empathy can lead to more sinister behaviors. People who cannot empathize with others may engage in actions that are outright cruel or commit them without any sense of guilt or remorse. They might lie, cheat, or even inflict physical harm without a second thought about the pain they're causing. The Stoic philosopher Seneca emphasized the importance of kindness and justice, teaching that our actions should always reflect our inner virtue. When someone lacks empathy, they're fundamentally disconnected from these values. A lack of empathy is also evident in smaller everyday interactions. For example, you might notice that someone constantly interrupts conversations to talk about themselves, shows little interest in what others have to say, or fails to offer help when it's clearly needed. These might seem like minor annoyances at first, but they add up to a pattern of behavior that reveals a deeper issue. The Stoics would remind us to be observant and discerning, understanding that these small signs are indicative of a person's true character. If you find yourself dealing with someone who consistently lacks empathy, it's important to set boundaries to protect your own mental and emotional health. The Stoics believed in the importance of maintaining our own well-being and not allowing the negativity of others to disturb our peace. You have the right to distance yourself from those who drain your energy and bring you down. Another major sign of an evil person is manipulation. Manipulation is when someone uses deceit or cunning tactics to control or influence others to get what they want. It's a subtle, often insidious behavior that can be incredibly damaging to those on the receiving end. Manipulators are skilled at twisting situations, making you question your reality and bending your will to suit their needs. This can leave you feeling confused, powerless, and unsure of your own judgments. Let's think about manipulation from a Stoic perspective. The Stoics valued clarity of thought and the ability to see things as they truly are. They taught that our perceptions should be grounded in reality and that we should remain steadfast in our principles no matter the external pressures. When someone manipulates you, they are attempting to cloud your perception and distort reality, making it difficult for you to stay true to these Stoic ideals. A common form of manipulation is gaslighting, where the manipulator tries to make you doubt your own memory, perception, or sanity. They might deny that certain events happened, or they might twist your words and actions to make you feel at fault. For example, Let's say you confront a friend about something hurtful they said. Instead of acknowledging it, they might turn the tables, accusing you of being overly sensitive or misremembering the situation. This can erode your confidence and make you reliant on the manipulator's version of reality. Manipulators are also adept at playing the victim. They might guilt-trip you into doing things you don't want to do by making you feel responsible for their happiness or well-being. You might have a friend who constantly complains about their problems, expecting you to drop everything to help them, yet they are never there for you in return. They might say things like, "If you were really my friend, you'd do this for me," making you feel obligated to comply. The Stoics, especially Epictetus, emphasize the importance of understanding what is within our control and what is not. We cannot control others' actions or emotions, only our response to them. Consider how a manipulator might use flattery or charm to get their way. At first, this can feel great. They might shower you with compliments and make you feel special. But over time, you might notice that their praise comes with strings attached. They might compliment you when they want something from you, or when they need you to do something for them. This can make you feel like you owe them, or that you need to live up to their expectations to maintain their approval. The Stoics would remind us that true virtue and self-worth come from within, not from the fleeting approval of others. Manipulation can also take the form of isolation. A manipulative person might try to cut you off from your friends and family, making you more dependent on them. They might say things like, "Your friends don't really care about you," or "Your family doesn't understand you like I do." This tactic makes it easier for them to control you because you become more reliant on them for support and validation. The Stoics believed in maintaining strong, supportive relationships with others, recognizing that we are social beings who thrive in community. Isolation goes against these principles as it weakens our support network and makes us more vulnerable to manipulation. Financial manipulation is another tactic used by evil people. They might borrow money and never repay it, or they might control your finances to limit your independence. For instance, a partner might insist on managing all the money in the relationship, making you ask for permission to spend anything. This control over finances can make it difficult for you to leave the relationship or assert your independence. The Stoics would encourage us to seek self-sufficiency and independence, ensuring that we are not unduly influenced or controlled by others. Recognizing manipulation for what it is can be challenging, especially when you care about the person involved. The Stoics teach us to be vigilant and discerning, to see things clearly and to act with integrity. If you suspect someone is manipulating you, take a step back and assess the situation objectively. Are they consistently prioritizing their needs over yours? Do they make you feel guilty or unsure of yourself? Are they trying to control aspects of your life or isolate you from others? It's important to set firm boundaries with manipulators and stand your ground. Communicate clearly and assertively about what you will and will not tolerate. Remember, you have the right to your own thoughts, feelings, and actions. The Stoics remind us that while we cannot control how others behave, we can control how we respond. By maintaining our inner strength and clarity, we can protect ourselves from the harmful effects of manipulation and stay true to our values. One of the most glaring signs of an evil person is controlling behavior. This goes beyond mere preferences or quirks. It's about someone who seeks to dominate every aspect of your life, leaving little room for your own autonomy and decisions. Controlling individuals often disguise their behavior as concern or care, but underneath, it's about power and control. The Stoics, who valued personal freedom and self-control, would see this behavior as fundamentally opposed to living a virtuous life. Controlling behavior can manifest in many ways. For instance, you might have a friend who insists on always choosing where you go and what you do together. While it might seem harmless at first, over time you start to realize that your preferences and opinions are consistently ignored or overwritten. They might say things like, "I know what's best for us," or "You'll have more fun if you just listen to me." This isn't about mutual decision-making. It's about one person exerting their will over another. In relationships, controlling behavior can become even more dangerous. A partner might monitor your whereabouts, demand constant updates on your activities, and even dictate who you can and cannot see. They might go through your phone, check your messages, or insist on knowing all your passwords. This kind of surveillance and micromanagement can make you feel trapped and anxious, constantly walking on eggshells to avoid conflict. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, emphasize the importance of maintaining your own inner freedom and autonomy, regardless of external pressures. Control can also come in the form of financial manipulation. A controlling partner or family member might take charge of all financial decisions, doling out money as they see fit and keeping you financially dependent on them. They might say, "I handle the money because you're not good with finances," or "It's easier if I just take care of everything." This can strip you of your financial independence and make it difficult to leave the relationship or assert your own choices. The Stoics believed in self-sufficiency and managing your own resources wisely, viewing financial control as a form of enslavement that must be resisted. Another way controlling behavior shows up is through isolation. A controlling person might try to cut you off from friends and family, claiming that they're the only one who truly understands you or cares about you. They might criticize your loved ones, saying things like, "Your friends don't really care about you," or "Your family is toxic." Over time, you might find yourself increasingly isolated, relying solely on the controlling person for support and companionship. The Stoics recognize the importance of community and supportive relationships, seeing isolation as detrimental to both personal growth and well-being. Controlling individuals also often use threats and intimidation to maintain their power. They might threaten to leave you, harm themselves, or even hurt you if you don't comply with their demands. This creates an environment of fear and anxiety, making it difficult to think clearly or make decisions that are best for you. The Stoics, especially Seneca, taught that we should face our fears and not allow others to intimidate us into submission. True courage and wisdom lie in standing firm against such threats and reclaiming our own power. It's important to understand that controlling behavior is about more than just wanting things done a certain way. It's about fundamentally undermining your ability to make your own choices and live your own life. The Stoics would advise us to recognize these behaviors for what they are: an attack on our autonomy and a violation of our personal freedom. By staying true to our values and maintaining our inner strength, we can resist the influence of controlling individuals and reclaim our right to live freely. If you find yourself dealing with someone who exhibits controlling behavior, it's crucial to set firm boundaries and assert your independence. Communicate clearly about your needs and limits, and don't be afraid to seek support from others who understand your situation. Remember, the Stoics teach us that we cannot control others, but we can control our own reactions and decisions. By staying grounded in our principles and valuing our own autonomy, we can protect ourselves from the harmful effects of controlling behavior and live more authentic, fulfilling lives. Another unmistakable sign of an evil person is pathological lying. This goes beyond the occasional white lie that most people tell. Pathological liars deceive constantly, often without any apparent reason. They fabricate stories, manipulate facts, and distort reality to suit their own needs or to gain an advantage over others. This behavior can be incredibly damaging to relationships, eroding trust and creating a web of deceit that's difficult to untangle. The Stoics valued truth and integrity above all else. They believed that a virtuous life was grounded in honesty and that deceit was a fundamental betrayal of one's character. Marcus Aurelius emphasized living in accordance with nature, which means aligning our actions with truth and reason. When someone lies pathologically, they are living in direct opposition to these principles, creating a false reality that benefits only themselves. Pathological lying can take many forms. It might start with small, seemingly harmless lies, like embellishing a story to make themselves look better or more interesting. Over time, these lies can escalate, covering up mistakes or wrongdoings and manipulating others to achieve their goals. A pathological liar might claim to have accomplished things they haven't, falsely take credit for others' work, or make up stories about their past to gain sympathy or admiration. This constant dishonesty creates a distorted view of reality where you can never be sure what's true and what's fabricated. Consider how a pathological liar might operate in a workplace. They might lie about their qualifications, exaggerate their contributions to projects, or spread false rumors about colleagues to sabotage them. This can create a toxic environment where trust is undermined and people are constantly on edge, unsure of who to believe. The Stoics would advise us to remain steadfast in our own integrity, not allowing ourselves to be swayed by the deceitful actions of others. Epictetus taught that we should focus on what we can control, our own thoughts and actions, and not be disturbed by the dishonesty of those around us. In personal relationships, pathological lying can be even more destructive. Imagine being in a relationship with someone who constantly lies about their whereabouts, their past, or their feelings. This behavior can make you feel insecure, anxious, and constantly questioning your own perceptions. You might find yourself doubting your memory or second-guessing your instincts, which is exactly what the liar wants. They thrive on creating confusion and instability, keeping you off balance so they can maintain control. The Stoics would remind us to trust our own judgment and not be swayed by the manipulations of others. Seneca taught that true peace comes from within and that we should not allow the deceit of others to disturb our inner tranquility. One of the most insidious aspects of pathological lying is that it's often difficult to detect at first. Pathological liars can be incredibly convincing, telling their lies with such confidence and detail that it's hard not to believe them. They might mix truth with lies, making it even more challenging to discern what's real. This is where the Stoic principle of vigilance comes into play. We must remain observant and critical, not taking things at face value, but instead seeking the truth through careful consideration and evidence. When you catch someone in a lie, pay attention to how they react. Do they become defensive or aggressive? Do they try to turn the tables and blame you? Or do they offer a plausible explanation that seems to make sense, even if it's just another layer of deceit? A genuine person will admit to their mistakes and strive to correct them, while a pathological liar will double down on their falsehoods, weaving an even more intricate web of lies. The Stoics would counsel us to remain calm and rational in the face of such behavior, recognizing it for what it is and not allowing it to provoke us. It's also important to consider the long-term impact of pathological lying. Over time, it can erode the very foundation of trust that any relationship is built upon. Once trust is broken, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild. You might find yourself constantly suspicious, always wondering if you're being lied to again. This can lead to a toxic cycle of mistrust and resentment. The Stoics believed in the importance of building strong, honest relationships based on mutual respect and understanding. When dealing with a pathological liar, you must decide whether it's worth trying to rebuild that trust or whether it's healthier to distance yourself from their toxic influence. If you find yourself entangled with a pathological liar, it's crucial to set firm boundaries and protect your own mental and emotional well-being. The Stoics would advise us to remain true to our own values and principles, not allowing ourselves to be dragged down by the deceit of others. Be clear about what you will and will not tolerate, and don't be afraid to walk away from a relationship or situation that is built on lies. Remember, your peace of mind and integrity are more important than maintaining a connection with someone who consistently deceives you. Now, how can you protect yourself from these harmful behaviors while maintaining your peace and integrity? Setting boundaries is one of the most crucial skills you can develop when dealing with difficult or toxic people. Boundaries are about defining what you will and will not accept in your relationships, and they are essential for protecting your mental, emotional, and even physical well-being. The Stoics, who emphasize the importance of personal integrity and inner peace, would see boundary setting as a fundamental practice for maintaining a virtuous and tranquil life. First and foremost, it's important to recognize that setting boundaries is not about being harsh or unkind. It's about respecting yourself and ensuring that others respect you as well. The Stoics believed in the importance of self-respect and living in harmony with our true nature. By setting clear boundaries, you're not only protecting yourself, but also fostering healthier interactions with others. When it comes to setting boundaries, clarity is key. You need to be specific about what behaviors you will not tolerate and communicate this clearly and assertively. For example, if you have a friend who frequently belittles you or puts you down, you might say, "I appreciate our friendship, but I won't tolerate being spoken to in a disrespectful manner. If this continues, I will have to distance myself." This approach is direct and leaves no room for misinterpretation. According to Stoic principles, this kind of clear communication helps maintain order and respect in relationships. Another important aspect of setting boundaries is consistency. It's not enough to state your boundaries once and expect others to adhere to them without reminders. You must consistently enforce your boundaries, even when it's uncomfortable or difficult. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, emphasize the importance of discipline and perseverance. By consistently upholding your boundaries, you demonstrate self-respect and teach others how to treat you. If someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries, it's a clear sign that they do not respect you or your limits, and it may be necessary to reassess the relationship. It's also important to remember that setting boundaries is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. As relationships evolve, your boundaries may need to be adjusted. For instance, in a work environment, you might need to set boundaries around your availability and workload to prevent burnout. You could say to a colleague or supervisor, "I am happy to help with this project, but I cannot take on additional tasks beyond my current responsibilities." The Stoics would advise us to balance our duties and not overextend ourselves to the detriment of our well-being. One of the most challenging aspects of setting boundaries is dealing with the pushback or resistance you might encounter. People who are used to getting their way, especially those with controlling or manipulative tendencies, may not take kindly to your newfound assertiveness. They might react with anger, guilt-tripping, or even attempts to undermine your confidence. The Stoics teach us to remain calm and steadfast in the face of such challenges. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of maintaining our composure and not being swayed by the negative emotions of others. When you encounter resistance, stay firm and remind yourself that your boundaries are necessary for your well-being. In some cases, setting boundaries might mean making difficult decisions, such as distancing yourself from certain individuals or even ending relationships that are toxic or harmful. This can be a painful process, but it's essential for preserving your mental and emotional health. The Stoics would remind us that our primary responsibility is to our own virtue and well-being. Seneca often spoke about the importance of choosing our associations wisely, recognizing that the company we keep can significantly impact our character and happiness. By distancing yourself from those who consistently violate your boundaries, you are making a powerful statement about your self-worth and commitment to living a virtuous life. It's also helpful to seek support from others when setting boundaries. This could mean talking to trusted friends, family members, or a therapist about your experiences and getting their input and encouragement. Sharing your struggles and successes with boundary setting can provide you with valuable perspective and strengthen your resolve. The Stoics valued community and the support of like-minded individuals. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the interconnectedness of humanity and the importance of mutual support. By leaning on your support network, you can find the strength to uphold your boundaries and maintain your well-being. In addition, practicing self-care is crucial when setting and maintaining boundaries. This includes taking time for yourself, engaging in activities that bring you joy and relaxation, and nurturing your physical and mental health. The Stoics believed in the importance of self-care as a foundation for a virtuous life. Epictetus, for example, emphasized the need to care for our own well-being so that we can be of service to others and fulfill our responsibilities effectively. By prioritizing self-care, you reinforce the message that your well-being is important and deserving of protection. Remember that setting boundaries is a form of self-respect and self-love. It's about recognizing your own value and refusing to allow others to diminish it. The Stoics teach us that our worth is not determined by external factors, but by our own actions and integrity. By setting and maintaining boundaries, you are living in accordance with these principles and fostering a life of peace, virtue, and resilience. Your peace and integrity are worth protecting, no matter who tries to undermine them. Setting boundaries is not just a defense mechanism, it's a declaration of your self-worth and commitment to living a virtuous life. The journey of recognizing evil people and protecting yourself from their influence is ongoing, requiring constant vigilance and self-reflection. But armed with Stoic wisdom and practical strategies, you can navigate these challenges while maintaining your inner peace and living authentically according to your highest values. Have you ever noticed how certain people treat you differently the moment you stop being easy to control? But wait, what if I told you that when people can't control you, they don't just walk away? Instead, they switch strategies, guilt-tripping, spreading rumors, twisting your words, anything to make you doubt yourself. Yes, I'm talking about those subtle psychological games you don't even notice at first. While you think you're just living your life, they're quietly working to pull you back into their influence. Stoic philosophy teaches us that real power isn't about controlling others. It's about refusing to be controlled. But let me ask you, are you truly free, or are you still reacting to their tricks without realizing it? Maybe it's time to break free once and for all. Consider the story of Adam, a man who walked his own path. He never let others dictate his choices, and that made some people uneasy. At work, his boss couldn't intimidate him. In friendships, he never bent to manipulation. Even in family situations, he set boundaries that others found uncomfortable. He thought this would earn him respect, but instead, something strange happened. People who once praised him started criticizing him. Friends who admired his confidence began calling him selfish. Colleagues who used to rely on him started spreading rumors. Confused and frustrated, Adam visited an old mentor, Mr. Carter, a retired businessman known for his wisdom. "Why is it," Adam asked, "that when I refuse to be controlled, people turn against me?" Mr. Carter chuckled and led Adam to his backyard, where two horses stood, one tied to a post, the other roaming freely. "Watch closely," Mr. Carter said. He walked toward the tied horse, and it stood calmly. But when he approached the free horse, it stepped back, cautious and alert. "Do you see?" Mr. Carter said. "People are like this. When they can tie you down, they feel secure. But when you are free, they grow uncomfortable because they can't predict or control you." Adam frowned. "So what do they do?" Mr. Carter sighed. "They don't try to free you. Instead, they try to break you. They'll call you difficult, selfish, arrogant. They'll twist your independence into something negative. Not because you're wrong, but because your freedom reminds them of their own chains." That night, Adam finally understood. People weren't turning against him because he was bad. They were turning against him because they couldn't control him. So he stopped explaining himself, stopped seeking approval, stopped letting guilt make his choices. And in that silence, something powerful happened. The manipulators left, the weak-minded faded away, and the truly strong stayed, because real strength respects strength. This transformation reveals a fundamental truth about human nature and the dynamics of power. When you become uncontrollable, when you refuse to bend to the will of others, you trigger a predictable set of responses. Understanding these responses, and more importantly, understanding how to navigate them with Stoic wisdom, becomes essential for anyone seeking to live authentically and freely. The first tactic people employ when they realize they can't control you directly is manipulation. Some people thrive on control. They want to dictate your actions, influence your decisions, and shape your behavior to fit their needs. But when they see that you're independent, that you don't bend easily, they don't back down. They change their approach. Instead of direct control, they use subtle manipulation, playing with your emotions to make you feel guilty, obligated, or pressured into compliance. Here's the truth. When someone can't control you outright, they try to influence you indirectly. They'll guilt-trip you with phrases like, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me." Or use flattery. "You're amazing at this. I don't know what I'd do without you." If that fails, they create urgency or play the victim, anything to make you feel responsible for their emotions. It's never about respect. It's about keeping you under their influence without making it obvious. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes invaluable. Lao Tzu once said, "He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still." That's the key, self-mastery. True strength isn't in controlling others, it's in controlling yourself. Manipulators thrive on emotional reactions, guilt, doubt, or fear. The moment you recognize their tactics and refuse to engage, you take away their power. Think of manipulation like a chess game. Every move they make is designed to force a reaction out of you. They set traps, expect you to panic, and hope you play right into their hands. But what happens if you don't react? If you stay calm, observe, and refuse to move according to their strategy? They lose. The best way to beat manipulation isn't to fight. It's to stop playing their game altogether. I remember once dealing with someone who always had a way of twisting situations in their favor. One day they asked for a favor, something I wasn't comfortable doing. I politely declined, but instead of accepting it, they sighed and said, "Wow, I thought we were closer than that." In that moment, I felt it, the guilt creeping in, the urge to explain myself. But then I paused. Instead of defending my decision, I just smiled and said, "I know what you're doing." That single sentence changed everything. Their face shifted. They knew they had been caught. They stammered, tried to laugh it off, but I didn't engage. That was the last time they tried to manipulate me. The thing about manipulation is that once you recognize it, it loses its power. So how do you handle people like this? First, recognize their tactics. If someone is making you feel guilty, pressured, or obligated, stop and ask yourself, is this a request or is this manipulation? Second, stay calm and firm. The more neutral your response, the less control they have over you. Finally, refuse to play the game. You don't have to defend yourself, argue, or prove anything. Simply say no and move on. At the end of the day, manipulation only works when you react to it. The moment you stop engaging, stop explaining, and stop feeling responsible for someone else's emotions, they lose control. Master yourself, hold your ground, and remember, your choices are yours alone. When direct manipulation fails, people often resort to an even more insidious tactic, spreading lies about you. Instead of facing you directly, they create false narratives, twist the truth, and try to turn others against you. Why? Because they know they can't manipulate you directly, so they attack your reputation instead. It's not about truth, it's about control. False narratives are a tool of the weak. When people don't have facts on their side, they resort to gossip, exaggerations, and outright lies. They want you to react, to defend yourself, to panic, because the moment you do, they win. They've pulled you into their game. But here's the truth. Real power lies in not reacting. Think of it like mudslinging. Imagine someone throwing mud at you. If you try to fight back, you'll only get dirtier. But if you stand still, let the mud dry, and simply dust yourself off, you walk away clean. That's how false narratives work. The more you fight against them, the more you spread the mess. But if you stand firm, the lies eventually fade away on their own. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are unaffected by what is said, you have already won." Think about that. Your silence is your victory. The moment you stop caring about what others say, you take away their power, because truth doesn't need defense. It speaks for itself. I remember a time when someone deliberately spread false rumors about me. At first, my instinct was to defend myself, to correct every lie, but then I stopped. Instead of reacting, I focused on being exactly who I am, letting my actions prove the truth. And you know what happened? The lies lost their impact. The more I ignored them, the more people started seeing the real story. And the person who spread them, eventually they exposed themselves, because lies have a short lifespan, but the truth lasts forever. So how do you handle people like this? First, don't engage. The moment you argue, you give their lies power. Second, let your character do the talking. Truth doesn't need a defense. It proves itself over time. Finally, Remember that people who spread lies reveal more about themselves than they do about you. At the end of the day, false words hold no weight unless you give them attention. So, stand firm, stay silent, and watch as the truth makes its way to the surface, because those who rely on lies always lose in the end. Another manipulative tactic people use when they can't control you is playing the victim. Instead of taking responsibility for their actions, they flip the script, act like they've been wronged, and seek sympathy from others. Why? Because if they can't control you directly, they'll control how others see you. Playing the victim is not about seeking justice, it's about avoiding accountability. These people twist facts, exaggerate situations, and make themselves look helpless, all to gain support and validation. And the more you try to explain or defend yourself, the worse it gets, because now you look like the aggressor while they sit back soaking in sympathy. Imagine someone putting on an Oscar-worthy performance, playing the innocent victim while making you the villain. If you step on stage and argue, you become part of the act. But if you refuse to play along, the audience eventually sees the truth. People who fake victimhood rely on reactions. Don't give them one. Epictetus once said, "A wise man does not allow others to dictate his emotions." That's the key. Emotion control. The moment you let their performance affect you, they win. But if you stay calm, detached, and let time reveal the truth, you take away their power. I remember dealing with someone who would always play the victim whenever they were confronted. One day, after repeatedly crossing a boundary, I finally stood up for myself. Instead of apologizing, they acted shocked, told others I had attacked them, and suddenly I was the bad guy. At first, I wanted to defend myself, to prove my side, but then I stopped. I let my actions speak. I didn't argue, didn't explain, didn't play into their game. And you know what happened? People started seeing the truth on their own, because no matter how much someone plays the victim, lies always unravel, and real character always shines through. So, how do you handle people like this? First, don't engage. Arguing only makes you look guilty in their story. Second, let their actions expose them. The more they lie, the more obvious it becomes. Finally, protect your energy. You don't need to prove anything. Truth has a way of surfacing on its own. At the end of the day, manipulators use victimhood as a weapon, but only if you give them an audience. The best response? Stay calm, stay quiet, and let reality do the talking, because in the end, the truth always outlasts the performance. When people realize they can't control you through manipulation, lies, or playing the victim, they often resort to a more calculated tactic. They try to isolate you. Instead of confronting you directly, they go behind your back, planting doubts, twisting stories, and turning friends, colleagues, or even family against you. Why? Because they fear your independence. If you have strong relationships and support, they can't manipulate you. So their goal is simple: cut you off and make you feel alone. Isolation is a tactic of the weak. People who thrive on control can't stand when you think for yourself, so they spread rumors, create divisions, and subtly influence those around you. They want you to doubt who you can trust, question your worth, and ultimately become dependent on them. The more isolated you feel, the easier you are to control. Think of it like a wolf pack in the wild. Predators isolate their target from the pack before they strike. Why? Because a lone prey is easier to take down. Manipulators do the same thing. They don't attack when you're surrounded by strong allies. Instead, they create conflict, tension and misunderstandings to pull you away from those who support you. But once you recognize this, you can outsmart them. Seneca once said, "Associate only with those who improve you. Avoid those who would pull you down." That's the key. Surround yourself with people who strengthen you, not those who divide and manipulate. True friends and allies will see through the lies over time, and those who turn against you, they were never meant to stay. I once knew someone who slowly tried to turn people against me. It started small, subtle comments like, "I don't know if you can really trust them." Then came the exaggerations, the twisting of my words. At first I was frustrated, tempted to confront them. But then I realized, the more I fought back, the more power I gave them. So instead, I focused on strengthening my real relationships. I stayed consistent in my actions, let my character speak louder than their words. And guess what? Over time, people started seeing the truth on their own. The ones who mattered stayed. The ones who believed the lies, they were never my people to begin with. So how do you handle people like this? First, stay calm. The more you react, the more fuel you give them. Second, nurture real connections. The people who truly know you won't be fooled for long. Finally, don't chase those who turn away. If someone is easily swayed against you, let them go. At the end of the day, those who fear your independence will try to isolate you, but they can't break what's unshaken. Stay strong, stay connected, and remember, real relationships don't fall apart because of someone else's lies. A particularly insidious tactic people use when they can't control you is challenging your confidence. They won't attack you outright, but they'll plant seeds of doubt. They'll question your decisions, make you second-guess yourself, and subtly undermine your abilities. Why? Because if they can make you doubt yourself, they regain power over you. People who question your confidence aren't giving helpful advice or constructive criticism. They're testing your self-belief. They want you to hesitate, to seek their validation, to feel uncertain about your choices. Because the more unsure you are, the easier you are to influence. Think of it like a shaky bridge. Imagine you're walking across a bridge. It looks strong, but someone standing nearby keeps saying, "Are you sure that bridge can hold you? What if it collapses?" At first, you feel confident, but the more they talk, the more you start questioning yourself. Not because the bridge is weak, but because they made you doubt it. That's exactly how confidence works. Your judgment is solid, but manipulators shake it on purpose. The trick is to recognize what they're doing and keep walking. Epictetus once said, "A person's worth is not determined by external approval." True confidence doesn't come from others agreeing with you. It comes from trusting yourself. The moment you stop seeking validation and stand by your decisions, you become unshakable. I remember a time when someone constantly questioned my choices. Every time I made a decision, they'd raise an eyebrow. "Are you sure? That seems risky." At first, I explained myself. I tried to justify my decisions to prove I was right. But then I realized they weren't questioning me because they knew better. They were doing it to make me unsure. So one day, I stopped explaining. I simply said, "Yes, I'm sure." That was it. No justification, no debate. And you know what? They had nothing left to say, because confidence doesn't need to argue. It just stands firm. So how do you handle people like this? First, trust yourself. If you made a decision based on reason and experience, don't let someone's doubt shake you. Second, stop over-explaining. The more you justify yourself, the more they'll poke holes in your confidence. Finally, remember that doubt is their tool, not your truth. Just because someone questions you doesn't mean you're wrong. At the end of the day, your confidence is your power. People will challenge it, test it, and try to weaken it, but only if you let them. Stand firm, trust yourself, and never let anyone else's doubts become your own. When logical manipulation and psychological tactics fail, people often resort to one of the oldest tricks in the book, provoking you emotionally. When someone realizes they can't control you with logic or manipulation, they resort to pushing your buttons. They say things designed to frustrate, insult, or enrage you, not because they care about the argument, but because they want you to lose control. Once you react emotionally, they win. They want you to get angry so they can claim the moral high ground. They'll say things that mock, belittle, or twist your words just to get a reaction. The moment you snap, they'll turn around and say, "See, I told you they were unreasonable." Suddenly, you become the bad guy, and they walk away playing the victim. Think of it like fire and wind. Imagine your emotions are a flame, and they're the wind. The more you react, the bigger the fire gets. But what happens when you don't feed it? The fire dies out. That's why staying calm is your biggest weapon. If they can't make you explode, they have nothing left to use against you. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That's the key, refusing to react in the way they expect. When you stay calm in the face of provocation, you rob them of their power, you remain in control, and they walk away frustrated instead of victorious. I remember a time when someone tried to bait me into an argument. They threw insults, exaggerated things, and even brought up past mistakes just to get me emotional. I could feel the anger building, but instead of snapping, I just smiled and said, "Interesting perspective." Nothing else. No explanation, no defense. And you know what happened? They froze. They didn't know what to do because they were expecting a reaction. That was the moment I realized staying calm isn't weakness, it's power. So how do you handle people like this? First, recognize the game. If someone is deliberately trying to provoke you, pause and ask yourself, do they actually want a conversation, or do they just want me to react? Second, control your response. If you feel emotions rising, take a breath before speaking. Finally, walk away from unnecessary battles. Not every argument is worth your energy, and some fights are won by simply not engaging. At the end of the day, your emotions belong to you. If someone tries to provoke you, stay calm, stay detached, and let them burn themselves out. Because in the end, the strongest person in the room is always the one who refuses to be controlled. When people can't defeat you through direct confrontation or manipulation, they sometimes resort to a tactic that's both frustrating and revealing. They start copying you. At first, it might seem like a coincidence. You make a bold move, they do something similar. You introduce a new idea, they suddenly act like they thought of it first. Then you realize they're not competing anymore. They're imitating. If they can't defeat you, they'll try to become you. Instead of finding their own path, they mimic yours, hoping to absorb your success without doing the work. But here's the catch. No matter how much they copy, they'll always be a step behind. Imitation may fool people for a while, but it can never replace originality. Think of it like a shadow versus the sun. A shadow moves when the light moves, but it can never create its own glow. That's what copying is, a lifeless imitation of something real. No matter how much they try to act like you, they can never replace the essence that makes you unique. Seneca once said, "Character, not imitation, defines a person." Your true value isn't in what you do, it's in who you are. Someone can copy your words, your style, even your ideas, but they can never copy your mind, your experience, or your authenticity. I remember someone who would copy almost everything I did. Every time I made progress, they followed the same steps. If I took on a new challenge, they'd suddenly be interested in the same thing. At first, it was frustrating. I felt like my work was being stolen. But then I realized something. The more they copied, the more obvious it became that they had nothing of their own. One day, I switched things up, changed my approach completely, and guess what? They had no idea what to do, because when you're always following, you're never leading. That's when I learned imitation is just proof that you're ahead. So how do you handle people like this? First, stop worrying about them. The fact that they're copying means they're already behind. Second, keep evolving. The more you grow, the harder it becomes for them to keep up. Finally, remember that imitation isn't flattery, it's a sign of insecurity. They copy because they lack the confidence to be themselves. At the end of the day, copies fade, but originality lasts forever. Keep being yourself, keep leading, and let the imitators struggle to keep up, because no one can replace what makes you unique. Perhaps the most insidious tactic of all is when people wait for you to fail. Some people don't support you, they just pretend to. They smile in your face, nod at your ambitions, and even say, "I'm happy for you." But deep down, they're waiting, not for you to rise, but for you to fall. Because your success challenges them, and if they can't beat you, they'd rather see you lose. Some people aren't cheering for you, they're keeping score. They don't clap because they believe in you. They clap because they're waiting for the moment you stumble. And when you do, they'll be the first to whisper, "I knew it." But here's where they fail, because real success doesn't depend on their approval. Think of it like a storm and a tree. A weak tree bends under strong winds, but a deeply rooted tree stands firm no matter how much the storm rages. The people hoping for your failure are like the wind. They make noise, they push against you, but they can't break you unless you let them. The stronger your foundation, the less their opinions matter. Epictetus once said, "Do not waste energy on those who hope for your downfall. Your focus should be on growth, not proving people wrong." Success isn't about proving anything to them. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. I once had someone in my life who acted supportive but always made small comments. "Are you sure this will work?" Or, I hope you make it, but let's see." At first I ignored it, but as time passed I realized they weren't rooting for me. They were waiting for me to mess up. And one time when I faced a setback, they were too quick to remind me. "See, I told you this wasn't easy." That's when I knew they never believed in me. They were just waiting for a moment to confirm their doubts. So I stopped explaining, stopped seeking validation, and focused on my journey. The result? I succeeded, and their silence spoke louder than their fake support ever did. So how do you handle people like this? First, recognize the signs. If someone only appears when you struggle but disappears when you win, that's a clue. Second, stop wasting energy proving yourself. Your success is for you, not for them. Finally, let success be your answer. Keep moving forward, keep evolving, because nothing bothers them more than watching you rise when they swore you'd fall. At the end of the day, some people wait for your failure like it's entertainment. Don't give them the satisfaction. Succeed anyway. Understanding these tactics is only the beginning. The real transformation comes when you internalize the Stoic principles that make you truly uncontrollable. When you master yourself, your emotions, reactions, and responses, you become immune to these manipulative strategies. You stop being a victim of others' psychological games and start living with the freedom and authenticity that comes from genuine self-mastery. The path to becoming uncontrollable isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about developing such a strong sense of self, such clear boundaries, and such unwavering principles that others' attempts to manipulate you simply bounce off. You become like water, flexible enough to navigate around obstacles, but impossible to break. Remember Adam's story. The moment he stopped explaining himself, stopped seeking approval, and stopped letting guilt dictate his choices, he discovered something profound. The manipulators left, the weak-minded faded away, and the truly strong remained. This is the natural result of becoming uncontrollable. You attract what you are and repel what you're not. The Stoics understood that freedom isn't given, it's taken. Every time you refuse to be manipulated, every time you stand firm in the face of provocation, every time you choose your response rather than react impulsively, you're claiming your freedom. You're declaring that your life belongs to you, not to those who would control it. This journey requires constant vigilance and continuous growth. The tactics others use will evolve, becoming more sophisticated as they realize their old methods don't work on you. But as you deepen your understanding of Stoic principles and strengthen your mental fortitude, you become increasingly immune to these attempts. The ultimate goal isn't to defeat others or to prove your superiority. It's to live authentically, according to your own values and principles, regardless of external pressures. When you achieve this state, you discover that being uncontrollable is not about power over others, it's about power over yourself. And that, as the ancient Stoics knew, is the only power that truly matters. What if I told you that the single most powerful force shaping your entire life isn't the money you make, the talent you have, or even the opportunities you get? It's something much deeper, something hidden that most people never fully grasp. It's your mind. Your thoughts have the power to build you up or tear you down, and in many ways, they determine your destiny. This isn't just a motivational mantra. It's an idea rooted in ancient Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that while we can't control what happens to us, we can absolutely control how we respond. And that makes all the difference. Today, we're diving into the secret of mental strength and how mastering your mind can transform every aspect of your life. Whether you're struggling to push through challenges or simply looking to better understand how to navigate life's inevitable ups and downs, the insights from Stoicism offer timeless wisdom that's just as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. Mental toughness isn't just about grit or determination, it's about cultivating the right mindset, anchored in clear, powerful thoughts, so you can face any obstacle with confidence and clarity. And here's the truth. Some of you reading this right now might feel skeptical. You might think, is it really that simple? Can just changing my thoughts really change my life? I get it, but I encourage you to stick around until the end, because what we're discussing today will challenge your assumptions and hopefully open your mind to the incredible power you already possess. By the time we're finished, you'll understand why mastering your mind is the key to mastering your life. The human brain generates about 70,000 thoughts per day. That's an incredible amount of mental activity, and it's not just random noise. Each thought carries weight, influencing your emotions, decisions, and ultimately the direction of your life. The Stoics knew this well, teaching that it isn't events themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about them. This means that by controlling your thoughts, you are essentially controlling your reactions and your reality. Let's break this down a bit. Think about how a single negative thought early in the morning can affect your entire day. It can set a tone of irritation or sadness that affects every interaction you have and every decision you make. The Stoics would suggest that we have the power to challenge and change that initial thought. For example, if you wake up feeling overwhelmed by the day ahead, instead of letting that feeling spiral, you can remind yourself that you have faced many tough days and survived. This shift in thinking isn't just positive thinking, it's about grounding your thoughts in reality and your own capabilities. This practice is not about suppressing negative thoughts or emotions. Rather, it's about not allowing them to take over. It's about observing them, understanding why they arose, and then deciding how you'll let them influence you. This is where the Stoic concept of the inner citadel comes in. Imagine your mind like a fortified city. Outside the walls, events take place. People say things, life happens. But inside the walls, you are sovereign. You decide which thoughts will enter and which will not. This mental discipline protects you from unnecessary distress and keeps you effective and rational. By practicing control over your thoughts, you also enhance your ability to focus on what truly matters. Stoics emphasize focusing on what is within our control and letting go of what isn't. When you spend less energy fretting about what you can't change, you have more energy to invest in what you can. This doesn't mean you ignore the reality of situations or your feelings about them. It means you approach them from a position of strength and choice. The power of thought is immense, and understanding this gives you a tool not just for personal happiness, but for profound personal transformation. The next time you find yourself caught in a storm of negative thinking, remember the Stoic teaching. It's not the situation that's causing you to suffer, but your thoughts about it. You hold the key to better experiences, a more fulfilling life, and true mental strength, all by mastering the realm of your thoughts. Most people experience adversity at several points throughout their lives, but it's not the adversity itself that defines us. It's how we respond to it. The Stoics regarded adversity as a crucial element of human life, something that tests our character and pushes our limits. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic emperor and philosopher, once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This profound insight reveals that obstacles are not merely hurdles to overcome. They are opportunities for growth and self-improvement. Embracing adversity is about shifting our perspective from seeing difficulties as roadblocks to viewing them as invaluable steps on the path to personal development. When faced with a challenge, whether it's a professional setback, personal loss, or even a global crisis, our natural instinct might be to retreat or lament our misfortune. However, adopting a Stoic mindset encourages us to ask ourselves, what can this experience teach me? This question transforms the nature of our experience, turning adversity into a classroom. This Stoic approach doesn't minimize the pain or difficulty of tough situations, but instead focuses on extracting value from them. Every challenge you encounter is a chance to practice virtues like patience, resilience, and courage. For instance, losing a job might initially seem like a devastating blow to your career, but it also offers the chance to reassess your path, discover new opportunities, or develop skills that you've been neglecting. Similarly, dealing with difficult people teaches you the virtues of patience and understanding, honing your ability to handle interpersonal conflicts more effectively. Moreover, embracing adversity fuels our growth by pushing us out of our comfort zones. It's comfortable to continue with our habitual patterns and routines, But growth often requires discomfort. Just as muscles need to be stressed to grow stronger, our psychological and emotional muscles need challenges to develop. When you actively embrace adversity, you're not just surviving your circumstances, you're using them as leverage to propel yourself forward. Stoicism teaches that we should not only accept the inevitability of adversity, but actively welcome it as a part of life that enhances our human experience. By doing so, we turn every obstacle into a tool, every setback into a setup for a comeback. The true measure of our character and strength isn't shown by how we enjoy success, but by how we face and use adversity. Self-discipline is often cited as a key attribute of successful people across all fields and endeavors. This is hardly surprising when you consider that self-discipline lies at the core of Stoicism, enabling individuals to live according to their values and pursue a meaningful life regardless of external circumstances. Stoicism doesn't just suggest self-discipline, it demands it as a central practice for those looking to cultivate virtue and wisdom. The Stoic philosophers, from Marcus Aurelius to Epictetus, taught that self-mastery, control over one's reactions, desires, and actions, is the foundation of living a life of purpose and integrity. Self-discipline is essentially about making choices that are aligned with your long-term goals instead of succumbing to short-term gratifications that lead you astray. It's about aligning your actions with your rational decisions, even when emotions or impulses pull you in different directions. This might mean getting up an hour early to meditate or exercise, even when you feel like sleeping in, or choosing a healthy meal over fast food, or even spending an evening working on your project instead of binge-watching a series. Each time you make such a choice, you are exercising self-discipline. But self-discipline in the Stoic sense goes deeper than just resisting temptation or sticking to a schedule. It's about cultivating an inner strength that allows you to remain true to your principles in the face of adversity, distraction, and immediate desires. It's about having the mental fortitude to say no to things that don't serve your ultimate purpose and saying yes to the often harder tasks that do. This requires a constant, conscious effort to monitor and control your thoughts and impulses to ensure they are helpful, not harmful. A key aspect of self-discipline is understanding that every small decision contributes to larger life outcomes. Stoics emphasize the importance of vigilance in everyday decisions, recognizing that habits formed in the small moments set the pattern for larger life choices. This idea is similar to training a muscle. Each repetition makes it stronger. In the same way, each instance of choosing the harder right over the easier wrong strengthens your willpower and your ability to maintain self-discipline in more challenging situations. Furthermore, self-discipline is not just about controlling actions, but also about regulating emotions and thoughts. It involves recognizing negative patterns of thinking and actively transforming them into more constructive ones. This mental aspect of self-discipline is critical because thoughts drive emotions and actions. By controlling the cascade at its source, your thoughts, you can dramatically alter your emotional and behavioral responses. The practice of self-discipline also extends to how we use our time. The Stoics were keenly aware of the finite nature of time and urged us to use it wisely, not wasting it on frivolous activities or unnecessary worries. This perspective makes self-discipline not just a personal growth tool, but also a philosophical stance on the ethical use of one's life and time. Self-discipline, as taught by Stoicism, isn't about self-denial for its own sake. It's about choosing a life that aligns with your values and aspirations. It's about making choices that might be difficult in the moment, but which lead to greater satisfaction, integrity, and fulfillment in the long run. Through self-discipline, we not only improve our lives, but also develop the resilience and strength necessary to face life's inevitable challenges with grace and composure. This kind of discipline ensures that when hardships arise, we can meet them head-on, not as victims of circumstance, but as active, empowered participants in our own lives. Vision is more than just a goal or a dream. It's a profound understanding of what you can achieve, regardless of your current circumstances. This concept resonates deeply with Stoic philosophy, which teaches us to differentiate between what we can control and what we cannot, focusing our efforts only on the former. The Stoics understood that while we might not control external events, we can always control our responses and maintain our vision regardless of external pressures. Cultivating a vision beyond circumstance means seeing past your immediate situation and maintaining focus on your longer-term aspirations. This vision acts as a guide, helping you navigate through life's challenges without getting lost in the frustrations of the moment. For the Stoics, this was about living in alignment with virtue and reason, aiming for personal excellence no matter the external situation. For us, it can be about setting personal benchmarks and life goals that align with our deepest values, not just societal expectations or fleeting desires. Maintaining a vision requires clarity and commitment. Clarity involves having a precise understanding of what you want to achieve, why it matters, and how you plan to get there. This might mean defining career aspirations that align with your passions, adopting healthier lifestyle habits that reflect your respect for your body, or nurturing relationships that foster mutual growth and understanding. Commitment is about staying the course even when distractions, obstacles, and setbacks appear. It involves resilience and the ability to adapt your strategies without losing sight of your end goals. Moreover, cultivating a vision beyond circumstance also means being prepared to stand alone at times. The Stoic philosophers often faced adversity from those around them who didn't share their commitment to virtue and reason. Similarly, pursuing a vision that breaks from conventional paths can sometimes lead to isolation or criticism. Here, the Stoic practice of emotional resilience is crucial, helping you to remain undeterred by others' opinions and focused on your inner compass. This vision-driven approach to life doesn't just buffer against the negative impact of bad times. It also enhances the good times by providing a sense of purpose and direction. Each step taken toward your vision adds a layer of meaning and satisfaction to your daily life, making even mundane tasks feel significant. This aligns with the Stoic ideal of purposeful living, where every action is part of a larger narrative of personal growth and contribution to the greater good. In practical terms, cultivating a vision beyond circumstance involves regular reflection and self-assessment. It means revisiting your goals to ensure they still resonate with your values and adjusting them as you grow and learn. It also involves cultivating a mindset of perseverance and flexibility, allowing you to keep pushing forward even when progress seems slow or invisible. Your vision is your roadmap through life. It's more than just a set of goals. It's a manifestation of your values, your dreams, and your character. By aligning your daily actions with this broader vision, you ensure that no matter what circumstances you face, you are building a life of meaning and purpose. This Stoic approach doesn't just help us to survive the challenges we face, it allows us to thrive, turning every obstacle into a stepping stone on the path to fulfilling our true potential. This is not just about enduring tough times. It's about using these experiences as catalysts for personal growth and resilience. This idea is central to Stoicism, which teaches that obstacles are opportunities in disguise. The Stoics believed that we develop our character and strength not during easy times, but through the challenges we face and overcome. This philosophical approach transforms the way we perceive adversity, encouraging us not only to endure but to thrive through difficulties. The first step in overcoming challenges with mental strength is to adopt a Stoic mindset. View each challenge as a test of your virtues, such as wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. For example, a professional setback can be a test of your wisdom. Can you learn from this experience? It can also challenge your courage. Will you give up, or will you persevere? By reframing challenges in this way, you're not just passively enduring them, you're actively engaging with them, extracting valuable lessons and fortifying your character. Another key aspect is maintaining a sense of control over your responses. While we cannot control all external events, we can control how we respond to them. This sense of agency is empowering and is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. When faced with adversity, instead of reacting impulsively or despairingly, a Stoic-inspired approach involves pausing, reflecting, and choosing a response that aligns with your values and goals. This might mean taking a deliberate break to gather your thoughts, seeking advice from trusted mentors, or simply choosing to remain optimistic and motivated despite the odds. Moreover, overcoming challenges with mental strength involves the practice of resilience. Resilience is not just about bouncing back, it's about growing stronger through adversity. This growth is similar to how muscles strengthen through repeated exertion and recovery. Each challenge you overcome not only tests your mental and emotional limits, but also expands them. You learn more about your capabilities, your limits, and how to push them responsibly. This learning and growth foster a deeper self-confidence, knowing that you have faced adversity before and emerged stronger. Practically, this means not shying away from challenges or wishing for an easier life, but embracing the tough parts as integral to your development. It's about making a conscious decision to stand firm in the face of adversity, using your Stoic principles as a guide. When challenges arise, remind yourself of times you have overcome in the past and draw strength from those experiences. Visualize yourself handling the current challenge with competence and composure, and then take the necessary steps to make that visualization a reality. Building resilience is essential for navigating the ups and downs of life effectively. It's not just about bouncing back from setbacks, it's about learning, growing, and becoming stronger from each experience. Stoicism offers a wealth of practical advice on developing resilience, emphasizing the importance of perception, action, and will. The Stoics teach us that it's not the events themselves that upset us, but our judgments about those events. This insight is foundational for building resilience. To start, one practical tip for building resilience is to work on reframing your perceptions. When you encounter a challenge, try to view it through a lens of growth and opportunity. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this situation? Or, how can this make me stronger? This doesn't mean ignoring your emotions or pretending everything is fine. Instead, it's about acknowledging your feelings, choosing to focus on the aspects of the situation that you can control and that contribute to your growth. Another key strategy is to maintain a routine that supports your mental and physical health. The Stoics were big proponents of living in harmony with nature, which included taking care of the body and mind. Regular exercise, A healthy diet and sufficient sleep are not just good for physical health. They also enhance your psychological resilience by reducing stress, improving mood, and increasing energy levels. Additionally, incorporating daily or weekly practices like meditation, journaling, or reading philosophy can help maintain a calm and focused mind, preparing you for whatever challenges may arise. Furthermore, building resilience involves setting clear and achievable goals. This practice keeps you motivated and moving forward even when obstacles appear. Goals give you a sense of purpose and direction, acting as a compass during times of confusion or distress. They break down overwhelming challenges into manageable steps, making it easier to see progress and maintain hope. A Stoic might suggest setting goals around virtues you want to develop, like patience, courage, or wisdom, rather than external outcomes, ensuring that your goals contribute to personal growth and are within your control. Engaging with a supportive community is also crucial for building resilience. Stoicism teaches the importance of mutual support and empathy within the community. Surround yourself with people who uplift and encourage you, who can provide advice and perspective when you're struggling. This network can be a source of strength and resilience, reminding you that you're not alone in your journey. Sharing your experiences with others and listening to theirs can provide comfort, insights, and new strategies for dealing with life's challenges. Lastly, practicing gratitude is a powerful tool for resilience. By focusing on what you are thankful for, you shift your attention away from what you lack or what has gone wrong. This shift can dramatically improve your mental state, reducing anxiety and depression and enhancing well-being. Each day, take a moment to reflect on a few things you are grateful for, whether it's a sunny day, a good friend, or a lesson learned from a recent challenge. This habit aligns well with Stoic practices, as it encourages you to value and appreciate the good in your life, even during tough times. The journey of mastering your mind through Stoic principles is not a destination, but a continuous process of growth and refinement. Every day presents new opportunities to practice these timeless teachings, to strengthen your mental fortitude, and to align your actions with your deepest values. The beauty of Stoic philosophy lies not in its complexity, but in its practical simplicity. The recognition that while we cannot control the world around us, we have complete dominion over our responses to it. As you continue to develop your mental strength, remember that setbacks are not failures, but opportunities for deeper learning. Each challenge you face becomes a teacher, each obstacle a chance to practice virtue, and each difficult moment a step toward greater resilience. The Stoics understood that the path to wisdom and strength is not paved with comfort and ease, but with the conscious choice to respond to life's trials with courage, wisdom, and integrity. Your thoughts truly are the architects of your destiny. By taking conscious control of your mental landscape, by choosing your responses rather than simply reacting, and by maintaining a vision that transcends immediate circumstances, you tap into a power that can transform not just your own life, but potentially inspire and uplift others around you. This is the legacy of Stoic philosophy. Not just personal improvement, but the cultivation of character that contributes to the greater good. The ancient Stoics faced wars, political upheaval, personal losses, and all manner of adversity, yet they found ways to maintain their philosophical center and live according to their principles. Their example shows us that mental strength is not about avoiding difficulties, but about meeting them with the right mindset. It's about understanding that every experience, pleasant or unpleasant, offers something valuable if we approach it with the right perspective. As you move forward on this journey of mental mastery, carry with you the knowledge that you possess within yourself all the tools necessary for a life of purpose, resilience, and fulfillment. The external world will continue to present its challenges, but you now have the philosophical framework to meet them with strength and wisdom. Your mind, properly trained and disciplined according to Stoic principles, becomes your greatest ally in creating the life you envision and deserve. Remember, every challenge is not just a barrier, but a pathway to deeper strength and wisdom. The path of mental mastery is one of the most rewarding journeys you can undertake, for it leads not just to personal success, but to a life lived with authentic virtue and unshakable inner peace. Continue to cultivate this strength, continue to practice these principles, and continue to remember that in mastering your mind, you master your destiny. Have you ever noticed how in the blink of an eye, time seems to pass over us? But wait, what if I told you that it's not just time that's making you age? Many of those bad habits you consider harmless are doing the dirty work, aging your body and mind without you realizing it. Yes, I'm talking about those details you ignore every day. And while you think everything is under control, they're wearing you down in silence. Stoic philosophy speaks to us about the importance of caring for what's essential, of not wasting energy on what robs us of peace. But tell me, are you really caring for what's essential in your life? Perhaps it's time to stop sabotaging ourselves, ready to discover which habits you need to eradicate today. Don't miss the last one because it will leave you speechless. Before we begin, pay attention to this story that will help you better understand the wisdom contained in this material. There once was a man named Andres who lived in a quiet village. Andres was a dedicated farmer, known for his hard work and the quality of his crops. However, despite being young, his face and body showed signs of exhaustion, as if he carried many more years than he actually had. One day, while ploughing the field, a wise old man approached him and said, "You seem to carry the weight of years on your shoulders, although you're still young. What burden do you carry to look like this?" Andres, surprised, reflected and began to talk about his daily life. He realized that he spent long hours without rest, with few breaks to eat properly or hydrate. He usually slept little since he spent nights awake worrying about his harvest, and to combat fatigue, he resorted to excessive caffeine and sugar. The old man looked at him with understanding and said, "Andres, bad habits can be like drops of water that wear down a stone. They seem insignificant at first, but in the long run they leave deep marks. Sleeping little, neglecting the body, consuming substances that fill you with momentary energy but drain you afterward. All of this gradually makes the body age faster." Intrigued, Andres asked, "And how can I change that?" The wise man smiled and gave him advice. "Listen to your body and care for it as you would care for your crops. Sleeping well, nourishing yourself with what truly feeds you, giving the body the rest it needs, these are habits that, if you cultivate them, will return energy and freshness to you." From that day on, Andres began to adopt small changes in his life. He started sleeping what was necessary, hydrating himself, and reducing the consumption of stimulants. Over time, his friends and neighbors noticed a change in him. His eyes regained their brightness, his skin looked healthier, and his mood improved. The lesson Andres learned was clear. Small habits that seem harmless can make the body and soul wither if we don't pay attention to them. And just as a plant needs constant care, our body also needs to be tended to flourish and stay strong. The moral of this story is that sometimes what we believe are simple, harmless customs can wear us down in silence. Taking care of our habits is ultimately taking care of our life and well-being. Have you ever wondered why coffee seems to have universal value in the working world? It's because most of us live with the idea that sleeping less than 8 hours is a sign of productivity and ambition. Ah, the glorious culture of insomnia. But here comes the bombshell. That lack of sleep is not only harming your health, but also aging you faster than a forgotten banana on the table. Let's break this down. During the night, your body enters a repair mode. It's as if you had a small team of builders working on constructing an improved version of yourself. While you sleep, tissues are repaired, cells are revitalized, and if you've had a tough day, that wonderful team is there to fix the damage. So, if you decide to cut the workday short for those builders, don't be surprised if upon waking you find a couple of new wrinkles, bags under the eyes that could house a small cat, and skin that could rival an old deflated balloon. The reality is that sleeping less than 8 hours intensifies these problems. Lack of sleep negatively affects circulation, something like trying to throw a party at home without enough space for everyone to enter. It's not a good plan, and the result is the same: chaos and discomfort. Now, how did we get to this point? Well, beyond your toxic relationship with the alarm clock, there are habits that sneak into your life like a cat in a cardboard box. Let's talk about them. Spending the night watching series until the sun rises, checking your phone every minute because clearly the latest meme is more important than your health, and consuming caffeine as if there were no tomorrow. All these behaviors group together in a delicious recipe that could bear the title, How to Become a Premature Zombie. So what to do to combat this journey toward premature antiquity? First, establish a routine. Your body loves regularity, so try to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. It's not a math exam, you're simply giving yourself a break. Additionally, create a conducive environment. Darkness is your best friend. Close those curtains and turn off the lights. If necessary, use earplugs and an eye mask. Your room should be a sanctuary of peace, not a circus. Don't forget to disconnect. That bright screen won't let you sleep well. Try putting your phone away at least an hour before sleeping. I promise the world will survive without your social media updates for one night. And finally, relax. Meditating or reading a good book before sleeping can be your ticket to restorative rest. Stoic philosophy teaches us to find calm in the storm. Apply this to your nights and you'll see the difference. So the next time you feel pride in those sleepless nights, remember that your body is filing a formal complaint and that you're accelerating your aging process. Take care of yourself because there's no reset button in this game called life. And if everything else fails, take note of what I'm going to tell you, my friend. Wisdom isn't measured in work hours, but in hours of restorative sleep. Give your body the rest it deserves, and you'll see how it thanks you. Have you ever felt like a circus juggler trying to keep in the air a bunch of balls representing your daily abilities? Stress has become that inescapable companion of our modern life, like the aroma of coffee in the mornings or phone notifications at 3 a.m. But did you know that this stress, besides making us wrinkle our forehead, is wrinkling our skin? Yes, that cortisol your body produces to face daily challenges isn't exactly an ally in your fight against aging. Let's talk a bit about stress hormones. Cortisol, epinephrine, and adrenaline are like those friends who are always there in difficult moments. Useful, but let's be honest, a bit toxic if they stay too long. These hormones help regulate blood pressure and fight infections. But surprise, They're also responsible for accelerating aging. That's right. Excess cortisol can make your skin lose elasticity and leave you with that "I haven't slept in a week" look. Now, don't let me scare you, but daily stress isn't just about bad decisions in choosing TV series to binge watch instead of going to bed. There are habits that, without you realizing it, are playing against you, like that friend who always arrives late and makes you lose time. Maybe you feel tempted to eat that chocolate ice cream every time you face a problem, or to avoid going out to exercise because, of course, the sofa is so cozy. These are examples of bad habits that make you age faster. So what's the solution? The answer is closer than you think. Meditation. Yes, that practice that seems reserved for Tibetan monks and that we often think has no place in our busy lives. Meditation and mindfulness are disciplines that can be integrated into your daily routine without costing you an arm and a leg. You don't need a monastery or a meditation cloak to start, just a few minutes a day. Imagine sitting in a quiet corner of your house, like a small oasis in the middle of chaos. With each inhalation, you absorb calm. With each exhalation, you release stress. There are simple exercises you can do at home, like focusing on your breathing or visualizing a place that makes you feel at peace. This not only helps reduce cortisol levels, but also gives you a clearer perspective on your problems. And who knows, maybe you'll discover that ice cream isn't the solution, and that a walk in the park can be more rejuvenating. Speaking of rejuvenation, don't forget that the Stoics also teach us to face adversity with serenity and strength. So instead of letting yourself be carried away by stress, adopt a Stoic attitude. Accept that life will bring challenges, but you also have the tools to handle them. Stress can be a formidable enemy, but it doesn't have to win the battle. By controlling your exposure to stressful factors and adopting practices like meditation, you'll not only reduce cortisol levels in your body, but also gain mental clarity and well-being. Remember, life is like a chess game. Sometimes the best thing you can do is stop, breathe, and think about your next move. The next time you feel stress is winning, take a deep breath and remember, as Epictetus said, "Calm is the refuge of the wise." Have you ever thought about what tobacco really does to your skin? If you're thinking it's just a small pleasure, let me be the voice of reason, or the voice of smoke if you prefer. Smoking isn't just a habit that stains teeth and gives a particular aroma to your breath. It's also a cunning thief that steals youth from your skin. That's right. Tobacco becomes that enemy you don't even realize you have until it's too late. And here we are, ready to break down this matter with a bit of sarcasm and a good dose of reflection. Smoking is like inviting a group of Stoics to your birthday party and watching them take all the gifts. You might ask, what do Stoics have to do with this? Well, imagine these ancient philosophers were the guardians of your skin. They defended the importance of living according to reason and nature, and what's natural about inhaling smoke and exhaling life. Tobacco not only reduces the amount of oxygen and nutrients your skin needs to look radiant, but it also activates some mischievous enzymes that compromise the elasticity of your face. It's as if your skin was screaming, "Help! Where is my collagen?" But wait, that's not all. The toxins in smoke interfere with cellular oxygenation. Can you imagine your skin being in a constant struggle to breathe? It's like trying to run a marathon with a plastic bag over your head. The lack of oxygen affects tissue regeneration, making your skin look more tired and aged. If you're one of those who think these small pleasures don't affect your appearance, think twice. Each puff of smoke is like a thief who sneaks into your house, stealing your youth and leaving visible signs of aging in their wake. What a great party! So what's the solution? apart from considering a radical change in your lifestyle. Yes, quitting smoking is a good idea, but there are other strategies you can incorporate. First, think about the power of hydration. Keeping your skin well hydrated is essential. Imagine your skin is like a plant. If you don't water it, it will wither. So why not fill your life with water and eliminate that pernicious smoke? It's also crucial to adopt healthy lifestyle habits. Eating fresh fruits and vegetables full of antioxidants can be like a shield against those invisible enemies that tobacco leaves in its wake. And of course, there's exercise, which not only improves your circulation, but is also an excellent means of releasing stress. At the end of the day, the choice is yours. You can continue living in the illusion that smoking doesn't affect your appearance, or you can take control of your life and start caring for your skin. Just like the Stoics who believed in self-discipline and reason, you too can be the architect of your own destiny. Although life can be a carousel of fleeting pleasures, remember that your skin will thank you in the long run. So, are you ready to leave the smoke behind and opt for a path that highlights your true beauty? As Brian Tracy well says, "Youth is a gift from nature, but aging is a masterpiece of life." Have you looked at yourself in the mirror lately? If the answer is no, you're missing out on a show worthy of a horror movie. And if yes, perhaps you've noticed that your skin isn't exactly the fresh and radiant canvas it used to be. The reason? Yes, you've guessed it, lack of water. But come on, it's not like you're going to die trying to drink a couple of liters a day, right? So let's talk about this. Most of us know that water is vital, but in our modern life, it often seems like we don't have time to even fill ourselves a glass. The thing is, it's not just about satisfying thirst, it's much more. Imagine your skin like a plant. If you water it enough, it flourishes. If you leave it dry, it withers. It's that simple. By not drinking enough water, you're not only doing your skin a disservice, which becomes rough and dull, but you're also accumulating toxins like you're a human landfill. According to experts, the recommended intake is clear. Men should drink about 2.5 liters a day. Yes, the equivalent of about 11 cups, as if you were in a tea competition, while women need around 2 liters or 8 cups, because of course you have to maintain balance. But let's be honest, many of us don't even reach half of those numbers. Life gets in the way, work, social media, that series you have to watch. And without realizing it, we go letting our bodies dehydrate like a desert. How to solve this small big problem? It's simpler than it seems. First, make hydration a habit. Always carry a water bottle with you. Think of it as your best friend, the one who's always there to remind you to hydrate when you see it. It's like it's saying, "Hey, don't forget about me." Additionally, associate water with specific moments of your day. Drink a glass of water every time you sit down to work or after each completed task. This way, hydration becomes part of your daily routine and not something you do only when you feel your throat dry. If plain water seems boring to you, add some lemon slices, cucumber, or mint. This way, your drink goes from being a tasteless liquid to a cocktail worthy of a luxury bar, even if it's in your kitchen. And finally, remember Stoic philosophy. I know it sounds weird to mention Stoics in a text about water, but think about this. Stoic philosophy teaches us to accept what we can't change and to act on what we can. If you can't change your dull skin, at least you can decide to drink more water. It's a small step towards self-care that can make a big difference. So in conclusion, leaving hydration aside may seem like a harmless bad habit, but it's actually a direct path to premature aging. If you care about your skin and your health in general, starting to drink the adequate amount of water should be your #1 priority. Remember that your body is your temple, and like any temple, it needs regular maintenance. To finish, here's a reflection that might resonate with you. In case you haven't realized it yet, my dear friend, life is like water. If you don't take care of it, it will evaporate without you noticing. Caffeine, that delicious elixir that makes us feel like superheroes in the mornings, and that for some inexplicable reason turns us into tolerable beings in the afternoons. Yes, it's that little marvel that promises to awaken your mind, but often becomes the cause of your anxieties and nervous races. If you've ever wondered whether caffeine is really your best friend or a cruel antagonist, this text is for you. Here we're going to explore how excess caffeine can turn you into an anxious and accelerated being, and most importantly, how to avoid falling into that deadly trap. Imagine you're a sports car roaring down the highway. Coffee is the fuel that propels you, but if you put in more than the account, you could end up crashing into the wall. Stoic philosophy teaches us to seek balance and not let ourselves be carried away by excesses. Caffeine in moderate doses can be beneficial. It has antioxidants, and a couple of cups a day can even improve your concentration. But like everything in life, there's a limit. Science suggests you shouldn't consume more than 2 caffeinated beverages per day, and if you're a lover of organic coffee, green tea or black tea, you're in luck because those are the healthiest. But wait, what happens if you decide to ignore those recommendations? That's where chaos begins. Caffeine can accelerate your nervous system like you're a hamster running on its wheel. And it's in those moments that you realize your heart is beating at an alarming speed, and anxiety looms like an unwelcome guest. But don't worry, dear reader, not all is lost. Here are some solutions that will help you navigate the turbulent waters of caffeine. First, set a limit. 2 cups, not 1 more. You can think of it as if you were a stoic resisting the temptation of an ephemeral pleasure for the sake of your long-term well-being. If you feel that coffee has become your inseparable companion, maybe it's time to have a serious conversation with yourself. Also, keep in mind the 6-hour rule. Avoid consuming caffeine at least 6 hours before going to bed. It's simple, powerful advice. Sometimes what you really need isn't more coffee, but a good book, a walk in the fresh air, or even a little meditation. Practicing this can help you regain calm and get rid of the anxiety that caffeine can generate. Finally, if you find yourself in the vortex of caffeine, consider changing some of your drinks to caffeine-free options. You might at first feel like something's missing, like you've abandoned an old friend. But as the old saying goes, sometimes you have to let go to be able to move forward. Caffeine can be your ally or your worst enemy, depending on how you decide to play your cards. Learning to consume it in moderation will allow you to enjoy its benefits without suffering its side effects. Remember, like the Stoics, balance is the key. So the next time you feel tempted to have a coffee marathon, think about your future self and ask yourself if it's really worth it. As Marcus Aurelius well defended, true power isn't in what you consume, but in what you decide to leave aside. Have you noticed that the sofa is starting to be your best friend? That cozy place where you spend hours watching aimless series on the internet, or, at best, mentally planning your ideal life while eating a bag of chips. Oh, sedentarism, that charming thief of youth who whispers in your ear, "A little more doesn't hurt." But in reality, let's not fool ourselves. Yes, it does. Let's talk about how those 45 minutes of daily exercise can be your ticket back to youth, or a healthier version of yourself. Your body is like a classic car, that one everyone admires at antique fairs. If you leave it parked for too long, the paint begins to peel, the engines rust, and in the blink of an eye, you'll have to spend a fortune on repairs. The same happens with your muscles, bones, and joints. If you don't give them a little movement, you'll start to notice that time passes faster than you'd like. Yes, friend, sedentarism accelerates premature aging, and when you least realize it, you'll be closer to being a grandfather than to your best version. Experts suggest that dedicating at least 45 minutes daily to physical activity is the secret. And before you put your hands to your head thinking about an exercise marathon, here's the good news. You don't have to be a gym fanatic to meet this recommendation. The key is finding something you really enjoy. It could be lifting weights, yes, like those muscular guys who seem taken from an action movie, dancing in your living room, or going for a walk while listening to your favorite podcast. See, everything counts. Of course, lifting weights is one of the most effective methods to combat aging, and no, you don't need to become the next Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just with a pair of dumbbells or a little body resistance, you can start noticing significant changes. Remember, it's about challenging your body, not torturing it. Stoic philosophy teaches us that control and discipline are essential for a full life. So why not apply that to your daily routine? If you find an exercise you really enjoy, those 45 minutes will become a small oasis of happiness in your day. If you're still not convinced, think about the cost of not acting. A sedentary lifestyle not only reduces your life expectancy, but also increases the chances of suffering cardiovascular diseases. Did you know that the heart is like the engine of that classic car? If you don't take care of it, it could leave you stranded on the road sooner than later. A few simple minutes of physical activity can make the difference. So the next time you think about that extra hour of series, remember that your body needs that care in the form of movement. Less than 45 minutes a day doesn't sound so scary, right? Think of it as an act of love toward yourself. So get up, stretch those legs, and give your body the exercise it deserves. After all, being sedentary is a sure way to reach old age without having lived completely. Engrave this fire in your memory. Taking care of your body is the first step to living a full life. If you don't do it, someone else will, but not in the way you'd like. Have you ever stopped to think about what a sweet really means? Because let's be honest, sugar can seem like the best friend of our taste buds, but in the long run, it becomes that annoying acquaintance who stays at the party too long. The thing is, life is too short to let a handful of candies ruin your skin, your health, and of course, your future as the younger version of yourself. So, let's talk about sugar abuse. A topic as sweet as it is bitter. Sugar, that white powder we all love, has earned its reputation as a villain in the health world. Did you know that sugar abuse can cause inflammation and acne? Yes, it's not just an urban myth. Those pimples that appear out of nowhere can be the result of that donut you devoured without thinking. But wait, there's more. Sugar doesn't just affect your skin. It's also a master of disguise. It binds to the collagen and elastin proteins in your skin through a process called glycation. As a result, your skin loses elasticity, and guess what? Wrinkles appear. Happy early birthday. And if all this weren't enough for you to reflect on your habits, here comes the most serious part. Sugar is one of the main culprits of cardiovascular diseases and high cholesterol. If you thought cholesterol was just a term doctors used to scare you, think again. Abusing sugar doesn't just affect your skin, it also puts your heart at risk, that noble muscle that pumps blood and emotions through your body. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not here to make you feel guilty about every piece of cake you've eaten in recent years. Instead, let's talk about solutions. Limiting sugar in coffee or soft drinks may seem like a good first step, but here's the trick. Sugar is camouflaged in many other products you consume daily. From sauces to processed foods, sugar sneaks everywhere using names like sucrose, fructose, or even syrups. It's like a food ninja waiting to attack you from behind. So, what can you do? First, become a food detective. Read labels and discover where sugar hides. Take inventory of your kitchen and say goodbye to those products that contribute nothing more than an excess of sweetness. Experiment with natural alternatives like stevia or coconut sugar. Your skin and heart will thank you. Additionally, adopt some of the teachings of Stoic philosophy. Think about what you really need and what is simply a whim. Moderation, friends, is the key. The next time you feel the impulse to devour a dessert, remember that your skin, your health, and your future are watching you. Don't let a simple taste become a harmful habit. Make moderation your ally and become the hero of your own story. After all, life is too short to let sugar age you faster than you really should. Every bite is a decision. Choose the path of wisdom and health. Have you noticed that there are days when your smile seems to have gone on vacation and hasn't even left a goodbye message? That, my friend, might not just be a simple lack of joy. You could be holding a direct passport to more than questionable physical health. Yes, you heard right. Your mood doesn't just determine whether you're the life of the party or the one who stays in the corner with a drink in hand. No, it's much more than that. Your way of seeing life influences your blood vessels, your stress, and ultimately the way time passes over your skin. So if you think aging is simply part of the deal, think again. The Stoics, that ancient wisdom that still gives us lessons in the full era of selfies and fast food, spoke about the importance of maintaining a serene mind in the face of adversity. They understood that life can be a rushing river full of sharp stones. But what if you decide to build a small boat instead of complaining about the cold water? Laughter, my friend, is the engine that propels that boat. It not only feels good, but according to science, yes, that thing we listen to when it suits us, laughing can improve blood vessel function, relieving stress, and, in the best case, keeping you a little younger. And that without needing miracle creams. Let's be honest, many times we fall into the trap of what I call the cycle of seriousness, where every problem seems like a roller coaster of negative emotions that push you into the abyss of demotivation. We forget the simple things, laughing at ourselves, at life's ridiculous situations, and yes, even at our own imperfections. Life is full of absurd moments that, if you look at them through the right prism, can be worthy of a comedy. Now, how can you start getting out of this spiral of gravity? Here are some practical suggestions. First, try surrounding yourself with people who laugh. Those people who seem to find happiness in the most unusual places. A coffee with friends, a comedy movie, or even a board game can be the perfect antidote to melancholy. You can also implement the practice of a laughter journal. Yes, it sounds a bit crazy, but trust me. Every night, write down 3 things that made you smile or laugh during the day. You'll be surprised how many small things can illuminate your life. As you do this, your brain will begin to look for those little gems of happiness in your day-to-day. And guess what? Laughter will become a habit. Finally, don't underestimate the power of meditation. Stoic philosophy teaches us to observe our thoughts and emotions without judgment. Practicing meditation can help you clear your mind of grey clouds and find that ray of light that often escapes us. So take a deep breath, smile, and let life flow. In conclusion, Taking life a little less seriously and smiling more isn't just grandma's advice. It's a survival strategy in a world that can be overwhelming. So the next time you feel laughter escaping you, remember that every smile is a small act of rebellion against premature aging. Laugh away. In case you haven't realized it, let me make it clear. Laughing is like medicine that has no side effects, only benefits. Have you noticed that in this era of immediacy, many become obsessed with losing weight, as if it were a game of who can do the most extreme diet? Yes, you know what I'm referring to, those diets that promise wonders in record time, as if your body were a remodeling project you can adjust to your whim. But what happens when those drastic restrictions take you to the limit? It's time to reflect on what it really means to take care of ourselves and perhaps nod to the Stoics, who knew a thing or two about moderation. Imagine you decide to subject yourself to a diet so drastic that even Stoic warriors would raise an eyebrow. Intermittent fasting, forbidden foods, a nutrient that's been talked about so much it seems like a modern god. Sounds attractive, right? However, while your mind dreams of being the next Instagram star, your body screams in silence. The truth is that subjecting yourself to these extreme diets can take your organism to a state of shock. And no, it's not the kind of shock you get when you see your before and after photo, but one that could leave you with premature aging, as if you'd taken a time trip direct to your 60s. Now let's talk about what really happens to your skin when you decide to lose weight fast and furious. You're also inviting the loss of elasticity in your epidermis. Yes, that skin that used to adapt to your shape like a glove to your hand now feels like a deflated balloon. Have you seen those balloons that after being full of air are left wrinkled and flaccid? Well, that's how your skin will be if you don't give it the necessary time to adapt. The dilemma is clear. On one hand, you want to look spectacular for your best friend's birthday party, but on the other, you don't want to look like you've lived in a desert for 10 years. So, what's the solution? Well, Stoic philosophy teaches us that moderation and self-care are key. Instead of falling into the trap of drastic diets, you could opt for a more balanced approach. Imagine that instead of eliminating food groups, you decide to adopt mindful eating, where you listen to your body and give it what it really needs. You can afford the luxury of enjoying a delicious piece of chocolate, but also a fresh salad full of nutrients. The idea is to find balance, a dance between what you want and what you need. A simple exercise is keeping a food diary where you note not only what you eat, but how you feel after each meal. You'll be surprised to discover how certain foods can influence your mood and energy. Over time, you'll learn to make more informed decisions, avoiding the craziness that only leads to more craziness. The next time you feel pressure to lose weight quickly and effectively, remember that your body isn't a rapid production machine. It's a temple that deserves to be treated with love and respect. Moderation, as the Stoics would say, is the key to a full and healthy life. Forget about extreme diets that only lead to wear and tear. At the end of the day, what really matters is how you feel in your own skin, not the number the scale shows. My friend, don't let them fool you for one simple reason. True well-being is built with patience and love, not with fad diets. Have you ever wondered why people only remember to use sunscreen when they're about to turn into a shrimp on the seashore? The reality is that the sun doesn't take vacations. Even though you're in the shade enjoying your coffee, those ultraviolet rays sneak in like an uninvited friend to the party. So, for the love of all that is good, why don't you do yourself a favor and start using sunscreen daily? It's like life insurance for your skin, only you don't have to pay monthly fees or deal with bureaucracy. Let's get to the point. Solar radiation isn't limited to summer vacations. It's there lurking every time you go out on the street. According to Stoic philosophy, you could say the sun is like those adversities of life that you can't avoid. But unlike Stoic wisdom that teaches us to accept the inevitable, you can take action to protect yourself from the damage the sun can cause you. By using sunscreen of at least SPF 30 every day, even on cloudy days, you're arming yourself against premature aging. It's like carrying an umbrella on a cloudy day. Maybe it won't rain, but if it does, you'll be prepared. Think of it as your own armor. The Stoics believed that virtue was the key to a full life, so why not be virtuous with your skin? Making sun protection a daily habit isn't just an act of self-care, it's an investment in your future. If you don't do it, you could end up watching how your skin wrinkles like a raisin and ages faster than your friends who for some reason seem to have the elixir of youth. Do you really want to be that friend everyone looks at with pity at reunions? Now, it's not just about applying a little sunscreen and continuing with your life. It's an art, a practice you should integrate into your daily routine. Apply sunscreen every morning as if you were brushing your teeth. You'd be surprised how many people ignore this simple step. And don't forget to reapply frequently because sunscreen loses effectiveness over time. So if you don't want to become a croissant, make sure to reapply every 2 hours, especially if you're at the beach, exercising, or sweating like a chicken on a summer day. Also, not all sunscreens are the same. It's important that you choose one you like, and that doesn't leave your skin greasier than a cheeseburger. There are light options, and even ones with a touch of color that will make you feel good and look better. And of course, don't keep information just for yourself. Talking with friends and family about the importance of sunscreen could save more than one from a future full of unwanted wrinkles and freckles. Stopping using sunscreen only when you go to the beach isn't just a bad habit. It's like stopping eating vegetables because you prefer French fries. Your skin deserves more than that. So become the hero of your own story. Protect your skin and prevent damage before it's too late. Remember, in life, you have to make smart decisions, and using sunscreen is one of the best. As a true Hollywood star would tell you, skin is your first dress. Protect it with style. So when do we start taking care of that skin? Do you remember that feeling of freedom when you decide to ignore medical checkups? As if by not going to your appointment, you're somehow mocking the system. Those papers full of strange terms no one understands. And that nurse who always smiles at you like she's in a kindness contest. But what if I told you that that freedom is actually a cage? A golden cage, perhaps, but a cage nonetheless. The truth is that medical checkups aren't just another annoyance on the to-do list. They're a lifeline we often ignore. According to recent university studies this very year, those checkups can detect pathologies in 90% of people. Yes, 90%. If this doesn't sound like a weighty argument for making a medical appointment, maybe you should check your sense of logic. So how often should you go to your medical checkups? The answer is as simple as following a menu in a restaurant. Up to age 40, you should get a checkup every 4.